Hmm. Hmm.
All right, everybody.
We're
This
dozening right now, bro.
is this is
What you doing?
episode 1 dozen.
One dozen, baby.
Episode 12 of Flippin Tin. As always, I'm Jake with Longleaf Reptilia.
And I am Sky of Hail the Scales. Don't think I'm holding out on you, baby. We're flipping 10 and
No,
looking 10, but it's
that's
just an
right.
introduction here.
Lord knows he needs it. Um,
The Lord knows I need a savior and a sleep.
But hope everybody's doing well. We haven't recorded in a minute. It
True
feels
weeks,
like
bro. True weeks.
it's been 3 weeks. It's been a long 3 weeks though. I'm like, man, I feel like it's been forever.
It feels like it.
Um, so glad to be back. First episode not covering South Florida trip, post South Florida trip. So that's cool. Glad to be here.
Got the
Um,
buggies already in the chat already.
Yeah, I already got people in the chat. What's up, Adam Ivory? What's up, Brandon Valentine? Looks like we got 4 viewers
Man.
that do not want to come into the chat, and that's fine. You can be like that if you want.
Yeah, man. Come on. It's
Um,
supposed to be live.
oh, God. Jason Keller's here. That's great.
We're going to have a 30-minute session on KP and how much we love him.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, what's up, man? He said, "Evening, all you normal-footed Homo sapiens and Jake." That is me. Thanks,
Long-term
Chris.
reptilian himself.
That's right. That's okay. They don't call me long toe reptilia for nothing. Out here just grabbing soda cans and stuff. That's fine.
Our boy's gripping and ripping, flipping and
I actually flipped 10 with my toes. Fun fact. Uh,
God
but, that's beside the point. But yes, thank you everybody for being here thus far. We're excited to be back. And Sky, I don't know. Have you done any field herping lately?
I did.
Rob said, did someone say feet? That's me, buddy. That's me.
Hope you
But
like toes, brother. It's more toes than
it's
feet.
more toe than anything, but we can,
He'll grab your nose and steal it. I'm gonna steal your nose.
dude, you laugh. I can pinch the fuck out of you with these toes. All right. Like,
Stop
grab the meat of your leg a little bit.
it.
Mm, yeah.
It's been El Nino. It's been hotter than shiznit out.
Dude, yeah, it's
So,
hot.
I've tried to go out a couple times since the last pod. I went out 3 times to one of my closer roads that I go hit. 2 times. Sorry, one time I got a ring neck within the first 500 yards of me being on the road. I think I sent you a Snapchat or video of that. I was
Yeah.
like, dude, tank ring neck should be a good night. Got absolutely nothing but a southern toad after that the whole night. So I was like, all right, that was a smoke show night. Went out again another night. I got like halfway down the road, and I was the only one on the road, and someone got behind me, and I tried to speed up a little bit just because I still wanted to be the front runner on the road because no one was around. And sure as shit, the guy, freaking pedaled right by me, and I was just like, man, I hope to God the thinkable doesn't happen. And I get to where this little kind of like it's like a 500-yard hotspot of this road where aquatics just pop off. And I think I talked about it on one of the pods recently where there was a 50-yard span where it was a 2-minute span where I got 5 snakes in probably about 50 yards, and they were all water snakes and ribbon snakes. And this is in that same area. I ended up getting it was still wiggling. I sent a video to Jake, of course, some ID photos in the video of this thing, freshly hit, obviously by the truck that just passed me. Crayfish snake or a glossy crayfish, whatever it may have been, whatever subspecies. It was in shed and it was just freshly hit, so it was a little hard to tell. Never seen that species in that area in the 15 years that I've been herping there. So that was a win and a loss at the same time. Got blessed at the end of the road that night. I didn't see anything else after that. And then right when I was about to get off the road, got blessed with a beautiful scarlet snake. I mean, I was like, it's always right as I start to pick up speed when I'm about to give up hope. There's always a snake in the middle of the road.
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
getting to the end of the road, and I'm like, all right, I just passed the last corner. I'm going to speed it up. 45 miles an hour. There's a tricolored snake right in the middle of the road. So I straddled it as best I could, ripped the brakes, hop out. Thank goodness I didn't hit nothing. beautiful little scarlet snake. If you guys saw the post on the Flippin Tin IG page yesterday, talking about the pod, that was the scarlet snake. Exceptional little guy. Can't even think of a blemish that was on the snake. It was good to not get one in that area. Gotten there before, but it was just nice to get another one. And went out again the other night, and the heat was just so much that I literally saw nothing. I didn't see a dead snake, a live snake, a frog,
Yeah, dude.
a turtle, nothing. So I haven't been out since, but yeah, that's all I got so far.
Got something, man.
Man. Yeah. I will say though, as soon as like, I guess not as soon as, because it's going to be hot as shit because summer's coming. But as these rains and these storms come through, I'm going to really try to hit them to go hit that area and see if those glossies are there, because I want to get a live glossy in that spot.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing this time of year, man. I was just talking to hopefully somebody that's going to be a new friend here, and he was asking me about herping. You know, hit me up about locality stuff, and we were talking about herping, and I was telling him like, man, this time of year is so hard herping, like road cruising, hiking. It's hard herping. As your best bet this time of year is follow the rains. That is pretty much all you can do right now is follow the rains. Like if you get a really big thunderstorm, go before. But if you're expecting like a light sprinkle, don't bother going before. But if you're getting a light rain, go during. Stay till after. If you're getting a heavy rain, try to go before and then or go after. After is always going to be your best bet. So this time of year for us southeastern folks, follow that rain, follow your rain patterns, and try to hit it hard afterwards. Even if you get an evening shower, try to go that night. It'll get amphibians moving.
As you were saying that, I forgot when I did just text you the other morning. I think it was earlier this week. It must have moved early. I was on the way to this job early in the morning. Freshly hit DOR corn snake right by a spot where I used to take Jake and our other buddy Preston. So they're moving as the sun's coming up, 6:30, 7:30 before 8 o'clock, before it's too hot. That's like your windows is like freaking early and really late in the rain, just like Jake was saying. Follow your rain because it's just too hot out. It's just
nothing's moving, man. Everything's hiding. Even hiking, man. Like your best bet now, like if you're gonna hike, especially if it's not raining, if you're gonna hike, flip big stuff that's like deep into the ground, not like some surface plywood or tin, because it's still going to be too hot. But if you find rotten logs that are like have been there a minute, big rocks, stuff like that, that's going to be your best bet for flipping some of the smaller species. Even like some rat snakes will be hanging down into the deeper logs. Obviously not saying don't go, always go, take any opportunity you can to go, because there's always the chance. I found stuff, cruising when it's been 1,000 degrees out, there's always a chance. I'm just saying the likelihood is lower this time of year to just happen across something moving, midday, so pay attention to your weather. And if for some reason you get a dip, like, depending on where you're at in the States, you get a dip in weather, go out that night. For whatever reason, it's 77 instead of 80 that night, go out. That little bit of a difference, you'd be surprised.
That's gonna get him moving.
So for me, I've been out twice since South Florida, I believe. Again, like I've kind of just been following rains. The problem here is it'll rain for like a little bit, and then the sun will come right out and it's really hot. So I try and go when it rains a little later. I've gotten to go twice, but me and my roommate right now are kind of sharing my truck. So my days that I can actually go are kind of hit or miss. But I did manage to get out twice. And the first night I found a really big, I want to show this guy just because like it was for my area. It was such a pretty rat snake. Because normally by me, you find really, really dark ones. And or really, darker green ones, but this one in particular,
it looked 4 foot, right?
What's that?
It was over 4 foot too.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, for sure.
Pictures it looked like.
Yeah, it was a large snake. I don't know how well anybody can see that, but that is a very yellow rat snake for my area.
I love straight wiggle he's got going on.
Yeah. The zigzags. So that was cool. That was the first snake of the night, and then of course I got my obligatory copperhead and a couple little ribbon snakes. But the first ribbon snake I found, and this thing, like, I find a lot of ribbon snakes on this road, especially when it's wet out. But this ribbon snake made every other ribbon snake I've ever found look like a dwarf. Like this was the biggest freaking ribbon snake I've seen in my life. I thought it was a garter when I rolled up on it, and I popped out and got out the truck and saw it, and I think my lights were kind of blinding him, so I got to be able to take a good picture. But he was huge. Like, not only was he long, but he was thick. Or I think it may have been a gravid female, but
his mid body looks huge.
Yeah, dude, just a big ribbon snake. I've never seen one that big.
He's thick. And I mean, the Western one, that looks more like a Western than an Eastern ribbon, because the Westerns get pretty juicy.
Yeah, that thing was like I said, dude. I find a ton of them, and they're normally small. Occasionally I find one long, but like this thing was like that thing could have eaten a freaking toad, dude. Yeah. And I don't mean like a small toad. Like this thing was gigantic as far as ribbon snakes go.
It might be out there.
That was cool to me. Like that was one of my favorite finds, even though I find a lot of ribbon snakes. I get out for every single one of them because I love them. But like, dude, this was such a unique find to me. Like, no, not a super uncommon species, but to find an individual like that just blew my mind. So that was really cool. And then of course I found my obligatory copperhead and a couple other ribbons that night. And then I went out again a couple nights later, found a little garter snake, of course, 2 copperheads, and I found my first rough earth snake of the year. So that was cool. Got to add another species on the year. But so found stuff. There's a good few amphibians out because it was pretty wet both times I went. But so there's a lot of amphibians, not a ton of snakes, but got to cross off another species on the year. Not a lifer, but a new one for the year. So that was really good. Glad to have crossed those off. And with that, are we ready to get into some write-ins so we can get our guest in here?
Yeah, our guest also just sent us some more pictures too. I was just skimming through them really quick.
Cool. Yeah, we'll get those up. So our first write-in of this evening will be from my buddy Chris Sanchez. He's actually in the chat now.
Oh, he in the chat right now with
me in the chat. What's up, Chris? Thanks for being here, buddy, and thanks for writing in. And so before I read that, let me pull up his photos because he's actually got a really cool story. If you're friends with him on Facebook, check out he's got a full story of it. I'm not going to read the entire thing tonight. I'm going to read what he wrote in. But he's got a really cool story about something very special he found. So we're just going to add this to the screen for now. And I'm going to go over here and kind of flip through while I read. He said, don't have Instagram, but I wanted to throw in on some of the Flippin Tin homework. Thank you very much. Everybody do your homework. Finally got toadlets from the army of Fowler's toads that have orgies in my ghetto pond. So that is a Fowler's toad. And this is his ghetto pond. I don't think any pond is ghetto, but that's a good pond. Any pond is a good pond. You can see, I don't know if y'all can see him there. Let me zoom in.
He's chilling on the little
he's got his on his bushel thistle. You can see the guy. He's calling right there.
Look at that bubble all blowing up, boy.
That's a cool picture of the bushel thistle.
That boy blown up on the bushel thistle, boy. Oh my god!
If you know, you know. On the bushel thistle. So there's one of the little toadlets.
Oh my god,
that's so tiny, dude. That's so awesome. That thing just metamorphosized, however you say it. I think I said that right. Metamorphosized.
You said it right. It was just the
He-
way you said it.
yeah,
Sensation.
yeah,
Sensation.
sensation. So that was cool. Look at that little on the bushel thistle again.
Look at the bushel thistles, boy. Look at the petals on those bushels.
Sorry, I keep it together. Look at those little guys on the rocks.
They're so cute, though, man. They're
Yeah, dude.
microscopic.
I love little toadlets like that, man. They're so freaking adorable.
It always trips you out when you
Um,
see movements when they're like the whole ground is moving and you think it's like bugs or spiders or something.
yeah, and there's like little tiny
That's a
toads.
million toads. Freaking.
And then after the toads and the bushel thistles, he said the neighbors were about to riot on how high and overgrown my yard was. I relented, and on the first pass, this handsome dude shows up. Beautiful little decay snake.
That thing is beautiful too, man.
That's
Look
a
at all
really pretty one. And then
the around.
and then this is the big one for him, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on it from his post. He found his lifer corn snake, and he said, found my lifer corn last night, due in part to your road cruising advice.
Dude,
And
look at that.
been looking for 20 years and finally found one. 20 miles in any direction from any listed sighting. So any documentation of any corn snake, this was the first one found within 20 miles of any listed sighting. So that's incredible. Really, really awesome,
I love the
Chris.
color that the body tone is too, like that really nice peachy copper,
Yeah.
brownish kind of
Yes.
burnt.
So
Wow.
he
Good on you, man. Good
yeah.
shit. They're
Yeah,
getting
he
some counties, some new freaking areas that you know that they're at. Now you got your own spot.
yeah, now the fact that he can document it, and I was talking to him earlier, and he's not super into road cruising, and but he said from because his car isn't great on gas, and he's more of a hiker, but he said based on listening to us and what we said, the conditions were perfect, and so he went out road cruising. He managed to come across this. So he's got a whole story about it on his Facebook. So you should definitely check that out if you have him. If you don't, you should add him. Awesome, dude. Thank you, Chris. And
You people, you do the research, you put it all together, and it will produce for you. We're not just out
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Chris, for writing in. And I mean, dude, huge congrats, man. That's such a huge accomplishment, especially for them not being common in that area, and for you to get one from a sighting. Yeah, and on when you don't normally road cruise, for one, and for two, the first sighting of one within 20 miles. I mean, that's just a huge accomplishment, man. So huge congrats to Chris on that.
Good on you, brother.
So moving on. Let's see. So we got another gentleman that wrote in. I believe his name is pronounced Jade. He is Jade Lawrence, and he is Snake Jade. That is JAYD on Instagram. He wrote in, and we're gonna start with the first picture. He said, "Hey gents, so this is kind of a long ride in, so bear with me. I'm going to kind of roll through this." He said, "Hey gents, so I'm fairly new to herping in Texas, but what I have observed so far is that in summer it is too hot for normal herping. Absolutely. The normal herping season seems to be spring and fall. Very true, much like the rest of us. At this time of year, the day and temps are in the 90s or 100s, even in Northeast Texas. So it is too hot to be out walking. Other than racers and coach whips, nothing seems to be out. In the evenings, it takes until about 2 a.m. for the ambient to dip below 80 degrees. And despite road cruising until 3 a.m. a few times, we've not had any luck finding anything on the road recently. My guess is that on a normal road cruising night, the animal comes to the road to get warm, to go hunt, etc. But when it is already so warm and the road is so high, even late at night, they just don't need to do it as much. I think it could still be successful after rain, though. We had our first rain yesterday in about a month, so we still have to test that theory. You're very right. Exactly what we've been talking about, Jaden.
Oh, yeah.
My herping buddy had suggested nighttime flipping to target the diurnal species that are resting undercover. I can report back on how that worked. So far, we have had the most luck with nighttime herping ponds, creeks, lakes, etc. It means we have mostly been finding aquatic snakes. That has been fun either way. We hit it hard last week in Northeast Texas and hit a few local ponds and mostly dry creeks next to some bigger lakes. Found a couple ribbon snakes on the crawl near two different ponds and a bunch of plain-bellied and diamondback water snakes, as well as finding some pockets of cottonmouths. The one spot had most of the water dry up to where a channel on the edge of a large lake was reduced to a handful of shallow pools, and each one had about 3 or 4 cottonmouths hanging about next to them. In that spot, in one night, we found 14 diamondback water snakes, mostly observing them swimming before they disappeared under the water, and 15 cottonmouths. So I've just kind of been scrolling through these so y'all can see as I read.
In a couple pictures, there's a freaking ripping ass freaking diamondback that I'm talking about. And good Lord, man, those Texas Diamondbacks and Texas Broadbands are just on a whole nother level.
Yeah. I love so he's finding plain bellies. That's one of the diamondbacks. He's finding erythrogaster, which is plain bellies, and he is finding rhombifer, which are the diamondbacks out there. And that's a ripping diamondback, dude. That thing is gorgeous. Diamondbacks, obviously not this individual, but diamondbacks are also one of the largest water snakes in North America. Really, really awesome. And then he wrote us back a couple days later and said, went back to the same spot where we got all the cottonmouths, and the water level was even lower, and we found more of them than last time. So interesting that the water level being lower, you found even more, which makes me wonder if that isn't because there were more amphibians like on the surface, a little easier to grab versus them swimming around in the water. That would kind of be my guess, maybe.
Just going and gorging themselves and freaking getting as much as they can fill with, man.
And it's also, that's a nice plain belly. It's also, if any of these, places housed any fish, those fish are landed, they're not, they can't get away. So, that makes a lot of sense for an easy meal if they do house fish. So that would make a lot of sense. And he found a boatload of cottonmouths. That's Absolutely. A beautiful little guy. But yeah, thank you very much, Jade, for writing in and showing. Look at that guy.
That one's a ripper.
That's a ripper. Thank you very much, Jade, for writing in. Please keep it coming. Keep up the good work. Finding a lot of aquatics. That's a nice one. That almost looks like a green water snake from that picture. That's crazy.
Right. The way its pattern is.
Yeah, very much a cottonmouth, but you can see how people mistake a lot of these. That's another one of your plain bellies. Another plain belly. Cottonmouth. That's a cool picture. I like that. All right, and then that leads us to our next write-in. Again, thank you very much, Jade. Please keep it coming. Keep doing your homework.
Keep it working, which is.
Next one comes in from a frequent flyer on the podcast, and he had a really cool write-in with some cool pictures. This is from Don and Jasmine of Baller Nothing Pythons on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for being regular write-ins to the show. We certainly appreciate it.
Love getting the updates, y'all.
Yeah, man. Said, made a rocket run to the northern Great Basin Desert yesterday. It's about a 3-hour drive, but it's convenient. But it's a convenient way for me to get a lot of California's iconic desert species without driving 8 hours to Southern California. So the most productive numbers wise, we still had a lot of not the most productive numbers wise, but we saw it a lot of fun. Found a couple long nose snakes road cruising, the second of which rewarded me with the defensive display that I had never seen before. They're usually really chill, but if disturbed, they can release blood from their cloaca and rub it on you themselves or anything convenient. And you can see a little bit of that blood right there. I'll zoom in on that, which this I did not know about. I found this to be a really unique defense display. You can see the blood patches right there. That snake is not hit. That is a defense display.
Oh, wow.
So this specific area is in an intergrade zone between the Great Basin gopher snake and the Pacific gopher snake, which let me keep clicking through some of these pictures. I usually always find intergrades and basins in that area. The last snake I found was a gopher, but it was an unusual one. There's no picture
an unusual
of that.
Suspect.
Yes. It appears to be xanthic or something close to it. So there is that.
Freaking beautiful.
I think
it's definitely got to be some sort of anery or xanthism or something.
Yeah. Very, very cool. That thing is just gorgeous, man.
It's so cool looking, that tail.
Thing is like a snow color. And then he goes on to say, spent a couple hours finding lizards this morning before heading home. Didn't bother to count, but saw several desert horned lizards, a couple Great Basin collared lizards, and a few dozen Great Basin whiptails. Was also treated with a large herd of horses, which we will get to. Cool. That's a nice collared lizard.
Yeah, collared is good.
And then I assume that's a whiptail.
Yep. Little freaking.
Oh, there's an owl. He said was also treated with a large herd of wild horses, some sage grouse, introduced chukars, and several burrowing owls. So I'm going to assume that's a burrowing owl.
Nice.
And there's a herd of horses, which this blows my mind, dude. Like you just see wild horses. Like that's
Wild West, brother.
That's crazy, man. And that leads us to our next one. Thank you very much. Once again, Don and or Jasmine, Ball or Nothing, Pythons. Y'all have been constants, and we certainly appreciate it. So really cool write-ins. I mean, the fact you found horses still blows my mind, dude. Like those are freaking horses. Oh, shut up. Very cool. So next we have our buddy Devin Fraze. I'm gonna guess that's how we pronounce his last name.
That's how we pronounce it.
Yeah, we're gonna go with Devin Fraze, and he is Devin_F99 on Instagram. You should definitely check out his page. He's got some cool herping stuff on there. And so that'll lead us to the next one. He said some female common snappers I saw nesting near my apartment in New Hampshire early last June. I'd see them on the same stretch of road while I walk my dog in the morning. I counted 17 different females in 9 days. That whole stretch of road is lined with nests. Fortunately, not a single DOR. I left all of them alone and only moved one that was in the street.
Hell yeah.
So very cool, Devin. These are awesome. We're big fans of snapping turtles around here.
Yeah, that was a good snapping turtle.
Snapping turtle hole.
A snapping turtle hole. What?
I love their faces, man. Those derpy freaking nose and eyes. They look awesome.
Shit.
Yep. And then that's a cool picture.
Cool thing.
Yeah. And then look at a little dirt on his head. What a little dweeb. And then that leads us to this cool picture. A red belly snake and spotted and blue spotted salamanders I found with Zach from Queen City Constrictors at his surprise birthday party in Central Maine he's an old man now and needs my help finding stuff.
Correct, you are, Devin.
Yes, we love you.
Those blue
Zach.
spotted salamanders, bro. It's so funny that he has those in his backyard because apparently those are like really hard and somewhat rare or some shit.
Yeah, and I guess they like breed in Zach's little pond or something.
Yeah,
Right?
he has them just breeding in his backyard. He goes out there and just grabs them up like blueberries whenever he wants.
Like blueberries. But very cool. So I believe that concludes. Yes, that concludes our write-ins for this episode. Thank you, everybody.
Mates and jits.
Yes, y'all, please keep them coming. We want all of the write-ins.
Anything, everything, write it.
Yeah, keep them in. So thank you, Chris, Jade, Don, and Devin. Y'all are the real ones. Everybody, keep them coming. But with
your name on it in your fridge, make sure you get it later tonight.
That's right. And we may or may not be doing a giveaway of some kind here soon with a extra piece of merch that may have been made. And it may or may not involve field herping. So may as well go ahead and get used to writing in the meantime before we do that. So
Little bird told me.
Yep. So be there or be square. But with that said, we're gonna introduce our guest tonight, and fairly certain everybody. What's that?
We've kept the man waiting long enough.
Yes. With all of that said, I'm pretty sure you know this gentleman. He has been getting after it in the field recently since a move he did not too long ago. And he's down in sort of our neck of the woods now in the southeast. And that is Mr. Rob Christian.
What's good?
Whose thing does not want to load. Why is it not coming up? Why is your screen black? I don't know.
Have his name. This is still, hold on. It's a suspense. This is all just suspense.
Yeah. Whatever. You can hear us, right, Rob?
I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you.
I think you're a little frozen. Oh, and he disappeared. That did not last very long.
We were just joking. He's coming right back.
Yeah, he's coming right back. Rob Christian, hold on.
He's creeping it real by creeping in and out of the pod.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Hold on.
Rob.
Here we go. There it is. Yeah.
There we
What's
go.
up, man?
There he is.
Much better, much better.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Look at the beautiful flag, people. Admire it. Stare at it. Look at it.
That's right. Hold on.
Hey, there it is.
The whole squad's here tonight. We all got our caps on.
That's right.
No, Keller, I'm not drinking a White Claw. And if I was, it's your mom's house.
Well, Rob, man, what's going on, buddy? You've been doing good. You've been getting after it in the field. Yep. Can you hear me, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, I work in pest control, so I'm out every single day almost walking around people's houses and stuff. So always herping then too.
Yeah, for sure. We might be. Can you hear me okay? Look, we might be having some connection issues. Oh.
It was
you there
in the pre-show.
Yeah. How about now? We there? You there? And he's gone again. Well, I guess we've gone so many episodes without a single issue.
11 episodes. It's got to be on the dozen.
Yeah, it's got to happen eventually. So I guess we can't complain too much.
No, at least it's with Rob and not, someone international.
Yeah, somebody we don't know.
If you guys have been following Rob, which you've had to have been following Rob, he's been connected in the hobby forever. If you follow Nerd, you've seen him. If you follow Jeremy Turgeon, you know of him. They run a podcast together. They freaking put out a bunch of great content, bring on a bunch of guests themselves. Me and Jake have both been on their podcasts, and he's back.
Okay.
All right. Are we
How
good
about
now? Okay.
Yeah, you're
not
smooth
frozen.
right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Your internet must not like scrub pythons.
Something like that. It doesn't usually do bad for talking about scrub pythons. It must not like field herping.
I guess not.
You will not leave this house.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're only allowed to talk about scrubs. That's it.
But you were saying how you work in pest control, and so you're kind of out all the time.
Yeah, I walk around people's houses all the time, and so in inspections, I got to look under downspouts and under pieces of wood in people's yards, and flip logs and stuff, and under rocks, just to make sure that there's no ants or termites or anything like that. And coincidentally, I end up seeing a lot of snakes and box turtles and spiders and all sorts of cool different stuff. So
very good, man.
Lizards with nests of eggs.
That was actually when I was not working, but what is really cool is what I found out is that just in working and walking around, all the baby lizards hatch out at the same time. So like the last 2.5 weeks, brand new baby 5-line skinks and baby anoles are everywhere. And I didn't know this until last year, but baby 5-line skinks actually have a red head when they're born. So they're like red at the front, white and black stripes in the middle, and then blue tail down the back.
Straight.
Which is pretty tight.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
I've been trying to catch one to get a picture, and it has not worked out.
Oh, they're so fast. So fast. And
so you made kind of a semi-recent move from New Hampshire to North Carolina, right?
Yep.
Okay. How's that been herping wise?
Oh, it's amazing. I've found snakes every month of the year. That is so freaking cool because in New England, you do not find snakes from like September or October, like the beginning of October until like April, or the end of April or the beginning of May. So it's almost 6 months of not finding shit. It sucks.
That's crazy because like September, October are some of the best months of herping by us.
Bro,
You don't see shit up there, man. You might catch a garter snake out every now and again, and then painted turtles, but that's it. You do not see anything else. It's horrible.
Nah, man, I couldn't do that. But
North Carolina and just start killing it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he's been murdering it out here, man.
It's really hard because every day I'm like, I could go road.
Oh
no,
cruising right now.
Yeah,
I could go. I should go out and go look for some stuff. I got some time.
Yeah, exactly. There's always a little bit of time to go do something.
That's the thing. If you're in the area and you have like 15 to 30 minutes or whatever, it's always worth it to just go, even just road cruise or go hit a local flip spot because you really never know what you might find.
You never know.
Unless you get out and get it.
Yeah, got to get after it. Can you hear us okay? Oh, we cannot hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Hello? Rob?
Still just trying to figure out when everything comes out down here.
You're breaking out again. We need signals.
I can hear you.
You can hear us?
You're in Milwaukee.
I can hear you.
Well, okay, you're breaking up pretty good.
Why?
Man, I really don't think is. Oh, there he goes. I really don't think Yeah, I don't think it was so good for like a second there. I really don't think his internet likes field herping. That must be the case.
Yeah, I mean, we did a whole 5 something minutes before the show.
Yeah, and everything was fine. It must be the live stream. Might be. It's always a little harder. My laptop is literally like a matter of feet away from my Wi-Fi router. So
Mine's the only, yeah, my laptop's the only thing on the Wi-Fi right now, just to make sure it's good to go.
there you go. But yeah, man. Rob's been getting after it big time since his move from New England down this way, man. He's been putting in a lot of work. It's been a lot of fun to watch him and see what he's been doing.
Yeah, if you guys have been following his page without spoiling too much, we want to talk to him about it. But the interactions this man's been having with wild animals is stuff that we all talk about, and it's what we try to preach on this show, to get out and do this stuff for yourself, because when you hear somebody talk about it, or if you just hear it on a podcast, it's really easy to just be like, that'll never happen, or that's just BS, or people are just hyping it up. Reality is always way more cooler than the story. So get out there and figure out reality, because it's so sick.
Absolutely. How are we doing there, Rob?
I'm on my phone now, so hopefully that works.
Okay. You're a little quiet now.
How about now?
It's about the same. Do you have headphones with a little microphone that can plug into your phone by chance?
Okay, how about now?
Perfect.
Oh yeah.
Perfect.
Oh.
Perfect.
Cool.
Hopefully we're not getting too much echo.
No, there's no echo. Your quality is a little different, but that's perfectly fine.
No,
Okay.
You're clear. All right, perfect. Where did you leave off? Oh, you said you're trying to figure out how things kind of, when things are moving down here.
Yeah, it's just like trying to figure out when everything down here is moving around, and there's no such really thing as road cruising in New England. Like, I just don't see snakes in the road hardly freaking ever, and so trying to figure that out down here, and like, I'm just not good at it. Is what it boils down to. So just going out road cruising, trying to go slow and see when I see things. I'm like, one of the spots that I've been going to a lot recently is just like this dirt road near this lake. And I've been going down there. And the first time that I went there, I drove and I just got there and I like turned around the corner. I was like, I think that was like a corn snake or something. I was like, it didn't really look like a snake. If it's there when I go back, I'll know that it was a stick, and then all cool. I go down to the end, I come back, it's gone. I was like, oh fuck.
Dude.
Oh man.
That's one thing I've learned, because like obviously you not having road cruised much, it's gonna take a little bit longer. Me, I've road cruised since I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things now, like, me and Sky, I mean, we'll spot a 4-inch freaking decays on the road. But
Yeah.
I told my buddy, like, at this point in my road cruising, career, if I question it anymore, I don't really stop. If I question it, it's probably not a snake. But because I've literally been like, there's been nights I'm like, man, I wonder if I'm just missing stuff. I don't know. And then I spot this little tiny earth snake, and I'm like, okay, nope, still got it. We're good.
You always get to that point where you're like, hey, are my eyes not working? Am I just not picking anything up right now? And then all of a sudden you'll see a little freaking cricket frog or something stupid hop across the road. You're like, nope, we're locked in.
Nope,
we're good.
Yeah. The first couple times I saw copperheads in the road, I like drove by and I was like, I think that was a snake. And I like come back and it's like this honking giant copperhead. I was like, oh, that is definitely a snake. And it's like so stupid, because when I go hiking, I'll be like walking along and I'll be like, boom, copperhead over there. And it's like covered under leaves, just like one coil poking out. And I'll be like, boom, copperhead right there. Yeah. And then when I'm driving on the road, it's like in the middle of the road, nothing around it. It stands out blatantly, but it's like, there's no pattern recognition for like, that's where snakes are found. So I'm like, I might have been a snake. I don't know.
I think it's one of those things that when you're road cruising, your eyes work a little quicker. You know, when you're hiking, you can scan and focus. When you're road cruising, it's like literally second by second, you got to be looking at the next 6 feet of road in front of you just from what your headlights can see. So it's definitely, it's a lot different, you know?
Yeah.
And
But
I feel like when you're hiking, you're really like almost like tunnel visioned, and your eyes are like we're all I mean, between the three of us, we're so locked in with our own collections that a scale pattern or any sort of scalation, our eyes just, it's almost like a recognition that it just throws a sensor up in our brain. So we could be, you like you're saying, you're scanning through the woods, but your eyes, they hit that recognition of a couple scales in between the leaves, and it's like ding 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 ding. There it is. So it's like you throw that onto the road and you're a fucking machine, bro.
yeah. You just gotta get used to it, man. You'll get good at it. It doesn't take too long.
Yeah, a bunch of my friends make fun of me because like I'm really, really good at spotting things that are hidden. So like we'll be like walking along a river and they'll just be like, you know, just a tail sticking out of something, and I'll be like, boom, snake right there. But when we're walking on the trail, I'm like looking everywhere else. They're like, you just stepped over a black rat snake. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'll turn around, it's like a 2-foot black rat snake just chilling in the trail. I'm like, I did not even see that. I walked right by that.
The ones that are in plain sight are almost harder to see because you're not expecting it, you know?
Like this one's going to be cryptically hidden right now. We got to be looking on stealth 6.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But anybody who knows you, Rob, knows you're a captive keeper as well as an avid field herper. So what came first for you? You know, was it the captive keeping side, or did it start by catching stuff?
For as far as like snakes, like if you're going like this and saying snakes, field herping, because I wasn't allowed to keep snakes when I was a kid because my dad is terrified of snakes.
Same.
So I was not allowed to keep snakes until I started high school. But my mom told me this story recently, and I don't know if I had remembered it and forgotten it, but she's like, the first time you saw a snake, we had set up a kiddie pool out in the yard, and you had gone out there, you're like 2 or 3 years old, like just old enough to like walk around on your own. And she's like, you saw a garter snake in the yard, and you just reached down and grabbed it and just like picked it up and were staring at it. And she's like, I didn't know what it was. And so I was like, Robert, put it down. And you were just like mesmerized and just stared at it. And I couldn't get you to like let go of it. You just held on to it and was just staring at it. And from that moment, that's all you cared about. And that's exactly how it's been. Like from that moment on, if there's snakes to be found or a place for me to look for snakes or to learn information about it, that's always what it's been. But when it comes to like exotics, my mom actually had tarantulas before I was born. So when I was little, I had tarantulas. And so when she would clean out just like pink toe tarantulas and red knee tarantulas, so when she would clean the enclosures, she would just like put them on our shoulders and they would just like crawl all over us and stuff. So we had tarantulas before all the other stuff.
Nice.
Very good, man. That's awesome. Love to hear it. And I like the variation we've been getting with that question, you know, because guys like Phil, I fully expected Phil to be like, oh yeah, I started field herping, but no, he was like, I was honestly like, I started captive keeping before I really got into field herping. I was like, you know, so I like the differences we've been getting on that one.
Yeah, I love field herping, and I was. Oh, what do you say?
I like when it's the mom that ends up being the influence, influence side, because it was my mom too. Like when I was had the freaking Chinese water dragons and all the freaking shit, and like, boom, that was the starter right off rip. But I love how your mom, like, she like didn't even realize, but she caught the founding moment of your passion and your freaking the rest of your life, and like if only you could have a picture of that moment, like.
I wish there was a picture of that moment, but back then it would have been like one of those disposable cameras or something. So
Lost guy with the garter snake. This is where it began.
Yeah. I was lucky, man. I lived in like a suburban area, but kind of in the woods. So my neighbor across the street had like I don't know, 150 acres or something behind his house of just woods. And we were pretty friendly with him. And so he was just like, you want to go look for frogs and toads? Have at it. Like, I own all the property to the highway. Just have, and that, my mom was like, I know exactly where you are. You're really close to the house. So if you have an emergency, you're not far away. And, there wasn't a whole lot back there, but I used to go back there every day. And then down the road from me, there was a Coast Guard base. And behind that, there was like lots of rocky outcroppings. And then behind that was an industrial park. And I used to go field herping there. As soon as I learned about that place when I was like, I don't know, 10 or 12 or whatever, I would go there every day. And I would just like see so many cool species there. And since I wasn't allowed to keep snakes when I was younger, it was me and my friends would just like bring a Home Depot bucket and like catch a whole bunch of snakes and then, bring them over to this big area where we would congregate them and then just all let them go there. And my parents' rule was you can keep them until sunset, and then at sunset they gotta go. They're not allowed to stay overnight. My parents are like, look, you catch too many snakes. If you were allowed to keep them all, there would not be snakes here anymore. They would all be with you.
Yeah,
So if you want to keep finding them, you gotta let them go.
Yeah. And that's honestly that was a good thing to instill in you at a young age. It's like, you ain't got to keep everything you find.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because we all would have. We all would have done that.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So, on your escapades, on your evening escapades, what are there any tools that you bring with you, whether it be road cruising, hiking, a day trip, a weekend trip? What do you have on you whenever you're out in the field?
Usually if I'm road cruising, I bring like 3 hooks. Do I need 3 hooks? Probably not. But I bring like a smaller hook, a medium-sized hook, and a longer hook, flashlights, and I don't know, sodas. Not, I'm pretty bare bone when
Yeah,
it comes
for
to
sure.
road cruising because I'm not hugely successful at it, and so I just kind of bring a couple little things. I bring my camera because one of the things that I've wanted to do over the last couple of years is take actual photos of the things that I find as opposed to just snapping pictures on my phone. And so I've been trying to bring my camera with me when I go out, and I've been horrible about like uploading those pictures because I do have pictures of some of the stuff that I've found, but like, it is what it is. And then when I'm like actually hiking and everything, I'll usually bring 1 hook with me. I bring a temp gun because I've been really interested in seeing the temperature difference in different areas, different times of the day, where I'm finding the animals, what their body temperature is at, and all that jazz. And I'll usually bring some water, 1 snake hook, a temp gun, and the camera basically is, I don't go too crazy. I don't bring like fancy flashes or a bunch of different lenses or any of that shit. I just, I bring my standard, DSLR. It's actually the same camera that I was using to take pictures of snakes at Nerd. So it's like a nice camera and it takes pretty good pictures. It's just like, I don't know. I am a kind of person who is real rough and tumble with all the like gadgets, and so I'm like, if I spend $5,000 on a camera, I know I'm going to break it, so I will not do that. I will bring my $200 camera, and if I need to replace it, that's okay.
Yeah. No, I think me and Sky are right there with you on that one. We're not.
I got like $100 body that I'm still needing to buy lenses for, but I've been so reluctant because I'm like, as soon as I buy it, I'm screwing it up, and then that's that much money down.
And that's the thing, dude. Lenses are just expensive as cameras nowadays. So
I think the lens I want is more than my body. So
yeah, 100%. I can almost guarantee you it is if you get the right kind of lens. Dang, man, that's cool. So I'm gonna go off the outline here a little bit because I forgot to add it. But tell us about some of the unique encounters you've had. Like for example, you had the water snake that you came up and scratched under the chin. Stuff like that. Tell us about some of the encounters that you've had like that, and how you've gone about doing that with these wild individuals.
Yeah, I think that we all go through different seasons of our lives and all go through growth and expansion, or that's the goal for me, is to grow and to learn and to experiment and to come into new venues of your life. And when I was young, the thing that I wanted to do was like catch every single snake. If I see a snake, I got to put hands on it. I got to touch it and grab it and look at it and all that jazz. And as I've gotten a little bit older, I still like, don't get me wrong, I still like catching things, but in experiencing lots and lots of different reptiles, not just field herping, captive monitor lizards, basilisks, scrub pythons, water dragons, bearded dragon, all these different things. It like puts a little bit of a different spin on things as opposed to just looking at one thing or another. And so over the last couple of years, I've been a little bit less hands-on when it comes to finding snakes. Like sometimes if I see black racers, I'm like, you know what? I don't need to touch you. You can just go that way. I'm not in the mood to get all bit up right now and musked on and all that jazz.
My rule for black racers is I'll catch the first one, and then that's it for the rest of the day. Because I usually see several, so I'll catch the one just to say I did it, and then the rest can be left alone.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
and like for water snakes, a lot of time, like now, I don't even most water snakes, I don't grab them unless I like really. I found an exceptionally like red one a couple months ago, and I was like, I need to take pictures of that, and so I grabbed that one. But a lot of the water snakes I see now, I don't even touch them. I just get a couple pictures and then I just move on. And what you're talking about for like experiences, these unique experiences, is when people look at snakes, I think that we kind of like look at them as like this like prehistoric thing that acts on instinct. And like a lot of people think about snakes as hyper defensive and they're going to bite and they're going to go crazy. And I think that people don't think about how they factor into that scenario, because snakes are living creatures just like we are, and they're experiencing life just like we are. And so you got to think, if you were chilling out on your porch and someone runs up and like manhandles you and grabs you, you're going to start swinging and flipping out and losing your shit and freaking out, justifiably so. And when I have been thinking about how I catch snakes over the last couple of years, I'm like, I wonder if things would go differently if I approach them as something that's not a threat or something that's not as threatening. Because like, I don't know if you guys follow Mark Lauterhand, but he's like this guru of timber rattlesnakes in New England. He wrote the book on timber rattlesnakes in the Northeast. And he is just like this huge wealth of knowledge, and he goes field herping for, and timber rattlesnakes are endangered up there. He knows where all the dens are. He photographs them. He sets up trail cams at the den sites and where the females hang out and all this different stuff. But he's posted a bunch of videos of animals interacting with timber rattlesnakes, and you're like, rattlesnakes, boom, they're going to bite you. They're venomous. They're dangerous. And he's literally posted videos of like, a bear walking up and checking him out, and the rattlesnake's just rattling, just like, hey, I'm here, leave me alone. And nothing bad happens. And so when you think about like, okay, why, when we go up to a rattlesnake, does it start going off and being hyper defensive? And it's like, it probably has a little bit to do with how we interact with them, and then a little bit with like their own, nature and everything. And so one of the things that I've wanted to start doing now is introducing myself to the animals as opposed to overbearing them. And so I posted that video a couple months ago. The one that you're referencing is, I saw a water snake that was out basking, and it was pretty cool temperature wise that day. It was like low 70s. And so the snake wasn't super heated up, but I basically just recorded myself walking up to it. And instead of grabbing it, I just like put my hand out, like kind of stood down and low, and I put my hand out, and I was able to put my hand like right up underneath its chin and just like pet underneath its chin. And I think that it was mostly asleep for while I was approaching it. But then as I was like touching it, it woke up and it was flicking its tongue and checking things out. But it wasn't freaking out. It was just kind of hanging out, just observing. And I think that because I didn't present myself as a threat or something that's going to hurt the snake, that's kind of how it responded to me. And I was able to touch it a couple, I'd like pet it, and then I would like take my hand back, and then I would do it again. And it was like perfectly chill, when like water snakes have this nasty reputation of like flipping out, losing their minds and biting and going crazy. And I think that part of that has to do with just how we approach them. And I do find that water snakes are a little bit more flighty in general, but I've been able to get pretty close to not just that water snake, but a couple different water snakes now, just by going slow, introducing myself as something that's non-threatening, and not grabbing them. You got to figure, when a predator is grabbing a snake to eat it, what are they doing? They're grabbing it right over the top down, right? And so when we grab snakes, naturally, that's how most of us do it. And so it's natural for them to have a defensive feeling come up for them when it comes to being grabbed like that. And if you see people making mistakes when they're like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like one of the things that I've noticed is like, if you see people make grave mistakes when they're free handling snakes, watch their hand placement, where it is on the snake's body. So many times I've seen people and I'm like, oh, they're about to get bit. And then, they tighten their hand around the top of the snake, and the snake turns around reactively and bites them. And it's like, I saw this shit coming a mile away. But if you're not thinking about the different layers of things, it's easy to overlook something like that.
Dude, I gotta hit on that shit hard after you just said all that, because the last few times that a lot of us have been out herping, most of the time it's been with water snakes. Just recently when we were on the Everglades trip, when we found that exceptional banded, as I was grabbing both Jake and Rob, Jake and Phil, they both said at the same time, I was approaching this thing like half an inch at a second, and I was scooping it from the underneath at the backside, and they both said at the same time, Sky, just grab it. And I was like, I'm trying not to get bit. I'm grabbing this thing gently, and I'm being calm with my aura. Sure enough, I pick it up fine. The snake never mussed, it never bit, it never showed any sign of defense, anything. So I 100% agree with you. It's all on presentation. And I was just telling this story to a customer of mine. We got talking about rattlesnakes because he found out I was a reptile guy. But I've told this story before, how when I was a kid, I found a baby rattlesnake, and unbeknownst to me and my mother and grandma who were watching me at the time, I held this thing for 3 or 4 hours playing with it, not knowing it was a baby rattlesnake, had it in a mason jar. And then when my grandpa and dad got back from the hardware store, completely lost their minds, stripped me down to my clothes, checked my whole body, make sure I didn't get bit, anything like that. I was never bit. Obviously, I'm still here today. But that just goes to show you, me being an innocent young kid with an innocent aura and an innocent vibe, knowing I love reptiles, found this baby snake, was sitting there holding it gently like it was my friend for 3 or 4 hours, never got bit by this Western Diamondback rattlesnake. I feel like that goes to prove the point. If you're calm and your aura isn't aggressive and if you know what you're doing. At that time, I was an absolute child of Steve Irwin. So I'm over here, oh, come here, shit, freaking petting this thing, like never grabbing it aggressively, just like you were explaining. And I feel like if you think about it in those layers and how you present yourself and how this animal is going to react to every movement, which is what we preach on this show, is learning your animals and how they react to everything you do and what you present to them in any sort of fashion, whether it's husbandry, decor, or what you're doing. All of that is going to be how they respond to you. So everything you're saying got me so hyped. You're sitting there talking, I've got like fireworks shit going off in my head. I'm like, this dude's speaking truth right now. This is everything you can breathe and live off of. Like, bro, people need to realize reptiles are so much deeper than we give them. And if you give them the depth that we are, they will give you so much back. Just like your videos have presented, the stories we try to portray and tell, like, dude, my boys have been ripping on me every time we've been herping lately. Every water snake I grab, I'm pussyfooting it, but they don't bite me and they don't musk on me. So guess what? You're proof. Rant over. Sorry.
And I think this also is something that you can take into a captive keeping aspect. So, like when you produce, I'll use my baby rat snakes for example. Whenever I go to do the initial grab out of the tub, I'm coming over the top to get them. They almost always bite me, but as soon as they're in hand, I'm underneath them. And then as soon as I'm underneath them, they're focused on everything around them because they're sitting here on top of my hand. Now nothing below them. That's not a threat anymore. It's everything out here. They're looking at my face. They're looking at my other hand. And like that's everything else. But they don't bite me once they're in my hand and I've got them, a loose hold. I'm kind of just letting them do their thing on my hand. And that's natural. And people have to realize like one of the main predators for snakes are birds. Where do birds come from? The top. They come down, and all it takes is a shadow. If you really pay attention, you just walking up to a snake, as soon as your shadow casts over them, they're looking at you. They go into immediate defense mode. As soon as you come over to make that grab, that's when they're going to get really defensive, and that's when it's game on. But if you take your time and really, like you said, Rob, present yourself as not a threat. Go instead of a grab, go for a scoop. You know what I mean? Come underneath, try to go for more of a scoop, and it would be a difference. And Sky, I don't know about you, but I think at the end of this episode, this will lead into a new challenge for our listeners. So we're gonna wait for the end to announce that, but I think this will make for a good challenge for Flippin Tin.
I already feel like I know what you're about to say, so let's cook it. Let that shit cook. Let this man cook.
So I already wrote it down. We're gonna cover that there towards the end. But that's fantastic, man. I love that you're doing that. It's certainly something like for me, I'm sure other people can relate. Whenever I see a snake, it's like it's tunnel vision, It's like snake, get it, grab it, and like I don't really take the time. Like, when Sky was doing it, me and Phil both said just grab it. That was because like I don't want this thing to get away, dude. Just get it, because this thing is freaking insane. But now Sky explaining it a little bit more, I get it. Me in my head, I'm like, Sky just doesn't want to get bit. He's a baby.
I hate getting bit, man. I can't stand getting bit. And like, there's a bunch of pictures of me from when I was a kid, and you guys are kind of from the South, so I don't know if you guys had this, but like in the North, they would sell in the wintertime like soft cotton gloves, like not really thick, but like just enough so it's when it's chilly. What?
They were like the black or white ones.
I had like tons of different colored ones, but they were like fiber gloves. And I would have pictures of me in the middle of summer wearing those because I would wear those so I didn't get musk on my hands and I didn't get bit. And it would be the middle of summer, and my babysitters would be like, "Why are you wearing winter gloves? It is 90 degrees outside." And I was like, "I have to catch the snakes. I gotta catch the snakes." And so I can't stand getting bit. And if you ask any of the people that worked with me when I worked at Nerd, they never saw me get bit. Like, it was very rare that they would see me get bit by things just because of the way that I would approach things, the way that I would handle things. And I would take that extra minute to just like go slow and try and not scare things. I don't get me wrong. I get bit every now and again, but it's not often. Even with wild snakes, it's not often that I actually end up getting bit.
I'm in the same boat with you. I'm all about just fuck it. I'll end up taking 5 extra minutes working with this snake or cleaning its tub to make sure I don't get tagged. But at the end of the day, I feel like when you have those repeated experiences over time, not only does it, keep your skills sharp of reading your snake's body language, but it also helps the snake realize that, all right, every time this guy comes in here, we're going to both read each other's aura. I don't always have to strike and bite if he's not going to come in, at this certain way. So I think it ends up being a good thing to train yourself and to help, get your snake used to you, just taking that extra time and trying to present yourself in that way, using your tools. If you don't need a snake hook for a python or a snake a rat snake, just using it as a tool to help you guide the snake in a more easy manner where it's not stressed out, or like you're saying, where you're not reaching your hand in to grab it, kind of tease it out with the hook. Why not take that extra 3 minutes to do that to make it a smooth experience?
And this is why I know me and Sky are just like on the same wavelength now, because I was literally about to say that is exactly why I hook everything.
Yep.
Everything. Baby rat snakes to adult carpet pythons. Like, I hook everything just so I can bring their bodies up. They're not feeling, because the other thing is the heat of your skin. Snakes are ectothermic or cold-blooded, and if you touch them, you are warm-blooded. They feel the heat on your skin, and most of their predators are warm-blooded. So again, that triggers a defense response. So a lot of times, so when you're coming from above and you're warm-blooded, you're triggering something in them. So what I do is I use a hook for everything to pick them up and then come underneath. That way I don't have to just grab and plucking them out like a freaking machine. Like, I always use the hook, come underneath, and then it's one less thing that causes that defense response.
I don't know if I'm getting complimented or roasted in the chat.
You're getting roasted.
I'm going to take it as a compliment, all right?
Sky's Aura smells like Aeropostale. Sky's Aura smells like Bath and Body Works. I love it.
It's Bed Bath and Beyond, damn it. Don't come past back midnight.
That is beautiful. I love that. Yeah, man, that's good.
It smells like White Claw, right? White Claw and Keller's mom.
Oh man. Well, from there, Rob, I think that's a good segue into talking about your, you kind of, I don't know if you help manage them or not, but some of the Herp Society meetings you go to, let's talk about that a little bit, and why they're important, why other people should do them if they don't have one, why they should start one, and just kind of what goes into some of those, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the important things for all of us as people who enjoy reptiles is community, and that's why we have got podcasts. That's why we've got reptile expos. That's why we've got all of these different things. But herp societies, I feel like, are a really important community building tool for us to be able to not only network, but to help introduce people who are just getting into things to other people who are maybe more experienced. And from when I was much younger, I was interested in just basically anything that had to do with reptiles. So even when I was, I don't know, my first experience at a reptile expo was probably when I was like 13, or a herp society was probably when I was like 13 with the New England Herp Society. And I would go to their meetings periodically, and getting to know some of the people locally who keep snakes and breed snakes, you can network and figure out, the first time I got to hold a really big scrub python was at a Massachusetts Reptile Expo that was one of the first ones that was hosted by the New England Herpetological Society. And that just like blew my mind and like threw me on this crazy trajectory to pursue scrub pythons. And I think that it's really important for people to find their local herp society if they've already got one in their area, and to go to a meeting just to check it out, see what's going on there. And when I lived in Maine, I helped run the Maine Herp Society for a little bit, and then I was a president of the Maine Herp Society for a little while, and organized meetings and meetups, helped coordinate getting people to go to the legislature when it came to changing the laws and the regulations, and helped kind of push people in the right direction. And down here in North Carolina, that's kind of what I'm trying to do now. It's been a little bit tough because my work schedule has just been crazy, but coordinating meetings, trying to figure out what things could be interesting for people to do who are local to us, and to help get younger people invested or more tied into things, because one of the things that you're seeing in like the fish hobby and the bird hobby and all these other animal hobbies is that they are dwindling a little bit because they're having a tough time getting younger people interested and involved in what's going on. And so the herb societies, I see them as a way to get people involved and to cultivate people who are interested in the same things that we are. Because, how cool would it have been for you guys when you were 12 or 13 years old to meet someone like you who's like, oh, I go field herping all the time, man. I go cruise this road over here. I go out looking, I see this water snake, I see the cottonmouths, I see copperheads, and blah, blah, blah. And to be able to learn from someone like that. I didn't have anyone really like that when I was that age. I was, the internet was the closest thing that I had. And um, eventually the Herp Society meetings and reptile expos and things like that. But not every kid's parents are going to want to bring them to reptile expos. It's something where they're going to be asking to buy an animal or to spend money or to do this or to do that. And so I see Herp Societies as a way for families, younger people who are new to the hobby or just interested, curious, to check reptiles out and to see what it's all about and to meet people who are interested in it. And that's kind of how I look at it, as a way for people to get more involved and to help cultivate that flame, that little passion that people, or just the interest, because it's not always a passion for people. Some people are just curious, and I think herb societies are a great way for people to get involved in that sort of thing. So that's kind of what Jeremy and I and a few other people have tried to do with the Carolina Herb Society, is to be open to everybody. I've heard from a lot of people that the North Carolina Herb Society is more of an academic thing, where they are more geared towards conservation and research, which, like, that is needed, and I'm so glad those guys are doing that. But I feel like for younger people, sometimes that is a barrier to entry, and they might not get taken as seriously. And I don't know, I haven't gone to their meetings, but I feel like if you have a more dressed down herb society, it is more accessible to everybody. And some people who just have one bearded dragon are not going to get invested in conservation right off the bat. And so if you have a herb society meeting where, hey, we're all going to go to the zoo and we're just going to be a bunch of reptile people talking about the different reptile exhibits that they've got, or talking about other animals that are going on there, or look at the anoles that are over on the wall over there that are not part of the exhibits, but we're just checking them out. Or, I went to the North Carolina Zoo and I caught a black racer that was right next to the elephant exhibit. So I was like,
no way. That's
yeah, it was pretty funny. My girlfriend's friend was with us and she was like, I think there's a snake over there. And I was like, oh man. And I just like bolted after it and grabbed it. And immediately people are like, what is this dude doing? And I'm holding this black racer and it's like, coming at my face and everything. I'm just holding it. And they're like, do you work for the zoo? And I'm like, no, I don't work for the zoo. I just saw the snake and I had to put hands on it. And then I just, casually let it go. But doing things like that, we have hosted a couple field herping endeavors where we just are like, okay, let's go to a state park and we'll just walk around and see what we find. And, we've been pretty lucky. We've found some pretty cool stuff on most of the trips that we've taken. And we did a trip to Venom Central down in South Carolina to check out venomous snakes and just things like that, where I want people to feel like they don't have to go to a reptile expo where it's just people trying to make money and, talking business and all this sort of stuff. I want people to be able to go to a group of people who are interested in reptiles and ask questions and maybe get experience with something that they're curious about. Somebody who is interested in monitor lizards, and then they meet somebody like Aubrey from A&B, and he's got tons of monitor lizards, and they can learn from him And if they're interested in Amazon tree boas and they meet Jeremy and they can talk to him about Amazon tree boas, or they're interested in scrubs or field herping or whatever, and they can meet me and talk about those sort of things, or any of the other people that are involved. But I think the internet has separated us so much, where people are like, oh, I just talk to people online, and it takes a little bit of that humanity out of things. And when, I don't know about you guys, but like after Daytona, I'm like so hyped for reptiles. I'm like, I gotta go do stuff. I gotta go herping. I want to go hang out with people. And it's getting to talk in person. That face to face is invaluable. It's so
important,
undervalued in our society today, or I guess looked over. And I think that a herp society is a great way for people to get back to those face to face interactions where they can get a pulse for somebody and learn things and all that jazz. It's trying to bring us back together as just a community. And if you don't have one, make one. Honestly, is what you can do. It's not easy. It is a lot of work. It's tough to get off the ground sometimes, and sometimes you have meetings with 2 people, and sometimes you have meetings with 40 people. And if you have a grasp on social media, like I'm lucky, I grew up in social media and learning all the different trends and different patterns of growth of social media. And so when I want to have a meeting, I can put it out in the areas where I know it's going to reach people, or I think that it's going to reach people. And I've had a good show out from that. But for other people who might not be as into that, it could be tougher for them. And so it's I don't want to say it's a double-edged sword, but it is tough to get started. But if you can get one started or meet up with one that's already going, it's one of the best things that you can do as far as, getting involved in the reptile hobby.
So I know y'all's herp society is the Carolina Herp Society. Would that involve immigrants like me from South Carolina?
So honestly, we've had more meetings in South Carolina than North Carolina. So
okay, then I'm going to message you after the show, and I want to know how I can get involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's something I've been meaning to hit you up about because I've seen it and I love it, and I'm right here. When I heard you guys went to the Venom
Central,
I was like, damn, I wish I would have known about that, because I totally would have came and met y'all up there. But I want to get involved somehow, so I'll message you after the show and figure out how I can help you as far as like setting these things up, and whatever you need from me, I'd like to get involved for sure.
Hell yeah. I've been slacking, just like I said, because my job has been crazy, but I've been trying to coordinate the meetings. So like I set up the Venom Central meeting and a couple of the other ones, and I've been trying to plan another field herping one, but it's just been so dang hot over the last several weeks and so dry. We've only just recently got rain, and so even in the field herping I've been doing, I really haven't been seeing as much as I usually do.
No.
And so I'm trying to plan a August trip in potentially in North Carolina, but then I want to do another field herping trip in South Carolina. We did Congregate Park once or twice, and we have been in talks of doing another one or two. I was talking to some of the guys down there because we do have members in both North Carolina and South Carolina. And so trying to bridge the gap and not overlap on Reptile Expo weekends and all that jazz has just been tough. It's basically just been kind of what I've been trying to do, but it's a lot of work on top of all the other stuff that I'm doing. So
one that would be really cool if people from North Carolina are willing to drive a little bit, the Edisto Serpentarium. It's a little closer to me. It's more coastal down. It's about an hour from me. But dude, that place is it's awesome. It's a really cool spot, and I know those people would really, really enjoy going there. I'm sure you haven't been, but it's a really cool spot, and if people are willing to drive a little bit, if they're from North Carolina, it would 100% be worth the trip. I think that'd be a great meetup spot, again, just to hang out and look at some really cool snakes.
I'm down. Let's do it. Let's set it up because we were talking
with
about doing the Greensboro Science Center too in North Carolina because they have Komodo dragons, and I
yeah,
selfishly want to see some Komodo dragons again. And
yeah,
uh,
100%, man.
but yeah, I'm down. If you send me a little bit of information, we'll set that up.
For sure, man. Well, that's awesome, man. So anybody listening, if this intrigues you, look into it. And Rob, are people okay to message you for some tips on getting one started if they want to start one themselves?
Absolutely. Message me on Instagram. Rob is creeping it real. I will help you as best I can.
Awesome. I
I
love
think
that,
it's
man.
awesome that any kind of grouping of people like-minded is what we've just been trying to get more people to do, and you're doing it on a different sector, doing it with the Herb Society, which is way cooler than anything we've been doing, which is just a bunch of buddies getting together. But that
That's
feeling
just as important.
Yeah.
it's great. It is a great time. But the feeling you're talking about of making those, face-to-face connections and getting those, hand-to-hand herping experiences together, it's so much more better than anything online you're ever going to have or anything like that, or meeting up at an expo and talking reptiles while you're out there buying and trying to talk business. Like, get out there with your buddies or get out there on a herb society. Like, we've been talking about this episode since we started the pod, just because the herb societies are literally one things we want to preach. And I personally, I admit I've never been a part of a herb society. It's one thing I've been wanting to learn more about, be a part of. That's why I've been like, dude, we got to get Rob on to talk more about this, because not only is it going to teach and tell everyone else about it, it's going to light the fire under my ass to either find out about the one in my area or try to start one myself. Because I also, it's like all of the herp buddies across the East right now, we're like so spread out between the 7 or 8 states along the coast, and Florida itself is just as big as 3 or 4 states. So half of my herping buddies are, sometimes 4 to 5 hours away, and that's my closest buddy. So it's like, it's hard to line that up. It would be great to be able to throw out a message and be like, hey, who's in the area? Let's all go herping together. I do my best on like, it's not a herp society, but following like your local Facebook groups of like just the county pages and the news pages. The amount of people that I get messages back on just from like commenting on pictures, or just, always throwing out that comment like, it's a harmless, don't kill it, it's a bandit, it's a corn snake, it's a whatever, while there's the 30 other, oh, it's a coral snake freaking comments. But you see all the like-minded people commenting back in there, and it's like, man, to get all of us like-minded people that have been commenting in these comment sections together, and let's all go out and, start a group and a movement of our own, it would be really cool to, bring that to fruition. So, having you on and light the fire for everyone on the pod, I think it's something that, Jake's going to help you out on your sector and hopefully get involved with your end. I'm going to try to figure out what's going on in my area. And if not, I want to start something up, because there's way too many people out here, and we're all the same kind of half introverted kind of personalities. So we're not going to go reach out when we don't have to. We all just want to be ourselves anyway. So I think it does to take that initiative to go out there and throw the bait out there and make it appealing for everybody, like you're saying, not make it so educational, make it a little bit lower class, because dude, we're not freaking,
because you can
we're not professors, like,
and you can do anything with that. That's the thing, is like, if you do like what Rob's talking about, you can make it like an educational day. You set something up right. It can be more on the academic side if you get the right type of speaker, go to a conference, something like that. But like at that point, you can make whatever you want. And Sky, where you're at, you're in such a good spot, because like, instead of like, for Rob's example, it's the Carolina. You're gonna have people from North Carolina and South Carolina all over the state. But with you, Florida's so big and so vast, you can make like a Central Florida herp society, where people from all around Central Florida right there can come together and do something right there in Central Florida, because there's so much to do.
That's what I was telling you. Like, just the local Facebook groups that I have, where you watch everyone throw up the posts. It's like all of us like-minded people in the comments. Just if we all got together, we could make a movement, man. So
yeah, dude, imagine like, and that's one other thing with there. Y'all could literally do like a trip to Busch Gardens. you know, you could go see cool animals and ride roller coasters all day, you know, and just hang out with snake people and have a great time, you know,
Or just
like,
take a squad out to the green swamp and everybody go
yeah,
freaking
yeah,
split
exactly.
up in small groups and tear up the woods together. Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
And that's what I'm talking. Like, you know, you're talking about, you know, if we did something in the Edisto area, I'm like, I got road cruising spots 30 minutes away from that. So, like, and there's actually a hiking trail probably 20 minutes away from the actual Serpentarium that like everybody could go walk is this whole thing where I would bet money Diamondbacks live, you know, and like there's a lot to be done, man. Like this has got
Yeah.
me kind of hyped. You know,
Yeah.
I want to get involved. I want to get involved.
Yeah, I think that that sounds freaking awesome. And then also one of the things that the herp societies in New England that I learned from them is that as you're building these communities, as you're building these societies, or growing them, it also gives you people who you know will show up if legislation starts popping up. Because one of the biggest things that pretty much everyone in the Southeast is going to be facing over the next couple of years is legislation against the stuff that we love. And it's already happened over the last couple of years. North and South Carolina banned black and white tegus. And it's just going to keep going. It's just going to keep happening. And it's frustrating because, like, you know, we try and follow USARC. We try and stay up on alerts on all the different things that are going on. And it's tough just with all the things that everybody's got going on. But your local herb society is able to give the information directly to people who might not get it otherwise. So, like, for the main herb society, we had lots of families who would come to them and they had like one pet reptile, but they saw our post about reptiles. They were like, oh, my kid loves reptiles, let's bring him here. And they're not tuned into USARC and this and that and everything. But when we go, hey, look, they're talking about banning all pythons, which means your ball python, you know, your friend's pet ball python that, you know, is their family pet, that would get banned too. So we are all going to show up at the state house and try to talk to the legislators and make a difference. And they're like, I had no idea. No one, the news doesn't talk about this. No one I know, the people who have the ball python probably didn't even know this was about to happen. And that's a real thing that happened in Rhode Island. And we had people who showed up because of the Herp Society. And so many of us showed up that the day that they were like going to first talk about it, they were like, why are there so many people here? What are you here for? Oh, we're here about the Python ban. What are you here for? Oh, we're here for the Python ban. Are you guys here to encourage? No. We're all here to say, don't do this. It's not fair. And the people who were in charge of the legislation, like, were like in a tiny room that holds like 10 or 15 people. They went in, closed the door, and came back out like 2 minutes later. Hey, that topic's been tabled. It's not, which means it's not open for discussion anymore. They killed it. It's been tabled, so you guys are all good to go. And literally, we got it killed before they had their first meeting on it.
oh,
And
yeah.
if people show up to things like that, that's the kind of change that can happen. But it gets lost in translation. And as much as I love teaching people and getting out there and having speakers and doing all that sort of stuff, the legislative aspect of herp societies is another really important part that I'm really passionate about. I've spoken in 8 or 9 states now, something like that, between 6 and 8 states on regulation, to try and push things in the right direction of not banning things. But if it wasn't for herp societies, I probably would not have known where to go or who to talk to or whatever. And I it's just as important that people do that as it is to go on a hike with people and go herp.
100%.
It's probably more important.
And that's one thing, like if there's a meeting coming up, that could be a herp society meeting by itself. You're like, all right, this month's herp society meeting is going to the courthouse. Like everybody show up.
After. Yeah, but we go hit the meeting and then go herping after.
Yeah. Yeah, we can tell everybody why Jake should be able to keep his yellow rats, and then we can we can go keep doing our thing. I love it, man. It's so important, dude. And I'm really excited to talk to you after this and try and get involved somehow. I love that, man.
Chris did bring up a good point though in the comments. Having herb societies and making them more apparent, it brings the different people, more like beardy mom people and people who may not know about it, the more general pet store kind of people into the society. A lot of people think that that's a bad thing to do, but that's like the best thing that could happen for us reptile keepers is to get all of these PetSmart, Petco, keepers, these beardy moms, quote unquote, and these leopard gecko keepers. Those people will come and fight for this stuff if they knew what was going on. I mean, those are the Karens of the world. Those are the people we need there freaking, taking their flip-flops off and ready to throw them at the judges because they don't want to be crying because they got their bearded dragon taken away. It's like, we think it's all stupid, but if we had that much motion, I even asked if we could put up, when we had one of the bands coming through, it was when the last iguana band came through. I went around to my local pet stores and I asked them if we could put up a flyer on the doors saying to go to to email into the senator or whatever about it. And they were like, what are you even talking about? And I was like, you guys are a pet store and you don't know about USARK? And they're like, what's USARK? And I was like, well, they're the people fighting for your guys' rights to basically have reptiles in your store right now. I figure if you put up a flyer, people know about it. They could write an email in and maybe we'll not lose iguanas and everything. And no one knew about it. No one even wanted to help. They were just like, we'd have to talk to management and they'd have to prove it and blah, blah, blah. It's like corporate world, they don't even want to help out with that. So how do you get the people's attention that shop and use those public, stores and chain stores? Because if we had all that motion, dude, that's like showing up at the door with a whole freaking football team.
Yep, exactly.
I love it, man. That's awesome. Well, fantastic, y'all. If you have any questions about Herb Society meetings, definitely don't hesitate to hit up Rob. I think everybody should look into it. And again, like if you're not a part of one, look into being a part of one. And if there's not one near you, maybe look into starting one. Something to think about. It's important. So this next one is Rob. You're actually the first person we're gonna ask this question to, and this question stems from our buddy Neeser. He's been a regular write-in to the show, and he brought it up, and I was like, I think this is a really good thing to ask. Now, NPR did just do a recent episode talking about this. I want to say I do want to preface this did not come from listening to theirs. I had intended on doing it. They just released one first, and it just so happened to have this question in it. So this isn't anything to do with that. But we're gonna start asking everybody this question. And it's kind of a hard one because it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. And that question is, how do you feel about iNaturalist? Is it a good thing for conservation and herping? Does it have a negative effect because of people marking down species in certain spots that are endangered or protected or anything like that? What's your take on iNaturalist as a whole, man?
I think it's both horrible and great.
I'm right there with you. That's why it's a hard question.
It's hard, and North Carolina has its own iNaturalist that obscures postings a little bit more and makes it so that the only people who have access to actual location data are scientists who are doing research on the specific animals. And I think it's called Herp Mapper. I don't like posting on either. Like, I don't post on any of those things. I will go and look on them, but I don't really post on them. I lie. I did post a couple things. I saw a silk spitting spider with an egg sac recently, and I posted that on there because I was like, that's just freaking cool. It's weird, and I like arachnids and stuff, but I saw that, and I was like, I got to post that on there. That's cool. But iNaturalist is a great resource for people who are looking to get into field herping. If they want to kind of get a feel for general distribution of things and where things are really heavily seen or not really seen that frequently. But I do feel like it does give away a lot of information that could be used. People are there's just a lot of bad people, and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
hognose snakes are found in this 2 square miles. Okay, I'm just gonna go and deplete that whole entire population of hognose snakes, and then they're gone for anyone who is interested in seeing them in their natural habitat. And I hate that. I really freaking hate that. And it's unfortunate. And it is also a great resource for people. It's a tool, right?
Yeah.
If you have a
100%.
knife in your kitchen and you are using it to cut steaks and your chicken and everything, cool. That's a great tool. It's awesome. If you're using it to stab your partner 47 times in the face, yeah, maybe not a great tool. It's like,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
whose hands is this tool and what are they using it for? I feel
That's
like most of us use it as a very casual way to get a general idea of where things are at. That's what I do. But I also am not a big fan of field collecting things. And so I use it as a way to, like, okay, I kind of want to see the species. They are generally seen in this general area. I'll go look kind of over there. And, I might go back to the same spot 8 or 10 or 15 times to figure out what I'm looking at here. But, I try not to look down into the specific area where the thing was located, because a lot of those things are like, it's been obscured, and it's like, I can tell exactly where the frick that is. Like, I can see exactly where that was posted. Like,
Right.
oh, it was found dead in the street, and then you look and it's like pinned right at the intersection of 2 streets. You're like, oh, I can Google Maps that right now. Like, it's horrible.
And that's why
But
I like when people use, instead of the pin, it's the little circle, because the
yeah,
little circle is a general area, and I
yeah,
prefer that, versus the actual pin. Like, it was right fucking here, like,
yeah,
and the it's bad because the naive part of me wants to be like, oh, most people who actually know what iNaturalist is are there to use it for the good of just being able to find something, not collect it, not poach it, just being able to find something, like. But again, that's naive to think, like, because I'm like you, I don't post on iNaturalist. But when I wanted to find out where the closest spot I could find brown water snakes are, I used it because they're
yeah.
not in my county, but they're a county over. And
Mhm.
so it's like one of those things to where I'm right there with you. And that's why this question is so hard, because it's a great thing. It's a lot like gun control. Gun controls are
what
great, they're a great thing for people who use them right. But the people who disrespect it and use it wrong are horrible people, and it's a
I
very
lethal.
it's a very fine line. And I don't know, man. I really don't know where I stand on it, because I see both sides to it. It benefits me greatly, especially if you're in a new area. I went to Tennessee the other month, and that's what I did. I pulled up iNat because I wanted to find a queen snake somewhere, and I kind of got spot. I didn't find one, because I couldn't get to the spots that they were cited, but it gave me an idea of where queen snakes would be in the area. And
Yeah.
that's all fine and dandy. But man, I'm just gonna say this: if you find stuff like southern hognoses and eastern indigos, don't put it on iNat. Call your local DNR office and let them know if it's a new area, something like that. Don't put it on a public platform. And Herp Mapper, I know of Herp Mapper as well, because an old herpetologist buddy of mine, he was down here from Marshall University. and he was all about hurt mapper. We'd find DORs, he'd be like, hurt map it, and that's all fine and dandy. But again, it's something that people can access. And I don't know, man. It's such a double-edged sword,
Yeah.
It can be an amazing tool for people who care and they want to knock off lifers on their list. But man, it really puts an area at risk and animals in jeopardy for certain bad people.
Yeah.
I think for the better good, it would be better if it never came about. It would make life harder on everybody, but if you think about the benefits it would have long term for everything, we never had INAT forever. That's a new tool.
Yeah,
we can go out and find everything old school.
Yeah. I used to look at old distribution maps in field guides and things, and I was like, okay, they're generally found in these areas. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research to see what specific habitat in this area that I can find them. But like,
that's such a good way to start though, because if you have a field guide, not only is it going to give you like a general area of where that species is going to occur, it kind of tells you a little bit about, the animal, how it goes about, what it does, what time of day it might be out, or if it's fossorial, or if it's a rat snake or whatever. And just taking those little bits of information and applying them to your weather patterns and what you may or may not know about snakes already, I feel like, you can kind of start connecting dots. Like, okay, if it's a rat snake, okay, well, maybe I'm going to either hit it early morning, at night. I could road cruise, or I can go hike in some woods along some forest and some wooded areas. It might not be the right spot, but a general area of where you could look for that species and then start ticking off areas. All right. It's a long game, but that's what was done before INAT. That's basically what researchers did. They got in the field, figured out the clues that they needed. When they figured stuff out, they made note of it and started applying it to every single area, and they became herp gods, not INAT cheaters.
Well, you got to understand that also today everyone is in the instant gratification era. If
100%.
they see a field hook, then they want it. They go online, they buy it, and it's there in 2 days. And if they have to wait more than a couple hours to go do something, people are losing their minds. And I think it's just another symptom of that sort of society that we've come to be in, where everything, we've all stood on the heads of giants to see where we're at, but we don't ever take into consideration how much had to go into all of the things before us to get to this point, and people do take iNaturalists for granted for, how much data had to be put in. And, if for a field guide, you'd think, okay, they had how many people entering data for these specific species? A couple. They spent 20 years doing data collection to consolidate this, and now iNaturalist has got every person who's got this little computer in their pocket is putting
iNaturalist just went boop.
Yeah. But also think about all of the areas where now we're learning, we thought that the snake only occurred here, but it's actually got a hidden pocket over here, and it follows this river system over this way, and all this different stuff. Before iNaturalist, I lived in Massachusetts. I don't know if it was before iNaturalist existed, but before I knew about iNaturalist, I found a marbled salamander, which is protected in New England. And I found one in a really weird area, like not someplace where you would expect to see a burrowing salamander. And so I brought it to my local herp society, the New England Herp Society. I spoke to the guys there who work with some of the conservationists, and they brought the sighting and the location to the state biologist and the state herpetologist. And the following spring, they went out and did netting, dip netting, to collect larvae to look. And they documented marbled salamanders that hadn't been seen in that area for over 70 years.
Holy shit.
And that's something that like I never would have put on iNaturalist, No. Because granted, people are probably not going out and collecting marbled salamanders for the pet trade or for anything like that, but still, like, it's something that hadn't been documented in that area for much longer than I've double the amount of time that I've been alive, triple the amount of the time. And the state biologists were able to do some research following a sighting and to learn more about that. And I think about iNaturalists sometimes in that way, where maybe scientists are using some of this data to adjust their research to look at finding new populations, studying new populations, expanding range maps, and all that sort of jazz to learn more. But it's tough, it's a tough thing.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing with iNat is I wish it was more broad.
Yeah.
Like it would be completely different if if you made a mark of where it was within a 20-30 mile radius, something like that. Be like, okay, one was spotted. That way we know they still exist. Like that's good. If somebody finds it, that way we know it's at least in the general vicinity and it's still alive and it's not extirpated from the area. That would be great to know, but the fact that somebody can put the street or the intersection that it was found on, that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I just wish it was a little bit more broad. And iNat is good because there are people identifying stuff on there, like actual scientists who identify things properly, and they're the ones doing that, and like that's all fine and dandy. But it gives a little too exact pinpoints, and maybe even coming down to, I wish certain species weren't allowed to be pinpointed, like eastern indigos, southern hognoses, shit like that. I wish those weren't allowed to be, like, if somebody dropped a pin, like, hey, what's this? And the scientist looks at it and goes, nope, that's not going to be on there for public knowledge. Like, I wish that was more of a thing. You know what I mean? Because they're like you said, there's bad people out there. There's a lot of guys that work. There's a lot of people that breed eastern indigos, and that's great. But there's also a lot of guys that would love new blood for eastern indigos, and we can't have that. I'm sorry, but like that's not okay in any sense of the word. Like we can't do that, and it's. I guess that also goes into why we wanted to start a podcast like this, to show the importance in these things and how to respect the local wildlife. I don't care how inbred your eastern indigos get. Maybe stop breeding them, but don't go find one for new blood, because that's not okay, man. That is not okay. So I don't know. Well, I think we beat that dead horse enough. Sky, you got anything else to add into that?
I would just say the worst story I've heard from iNat was from one of our buddies. I guess he's more my buddy than your buddy, but Aiden, he was using it to target a species over in Europe. And when it was one last little patch of undeveloped land where this snake species occurred. And I can't remember how far he said he had to travel to get there. It was like a couple hours, but he finally got out there and searched the area. He found 3 boxes that were buried into the ground, snake pit traps, basically, from poachers. And when he got out there, he collected, I think he said it was like 6 or 7 individuals out of there, destroyed the pits, got pictures, rehydrated all the animals, and let them back go. But he said because of those 3 sightings that were posted on iNat, he obviously knows that poachers were going there to, wipe out what was left of that little situation.
Oh my God.
That just goes to show you how much it can be used in an evil way. And just for him to go up and find, homeboy sent me pictures of this shit, like literally little bins dug into the ground, snake pits. So that's how that can be used negatively. If, like Rob was saying, if you have a 2-mile square radius, we're like, oh, eastern hognose are out here. Some people in our mindset be like, oh, you're going to go out there and road cruise them? No, people are literally going to go out there and make traps for these things. That's how fucked up they are. So that's how it can be bad. But yeah, we'll quit beating this horse. But that's the word. That's how bad it can get. That's how bad iNet can be.
I guess all this is to say, be careful what you post on iNet. Like, be aware of the repercussions that can come from it. It's a good tool for us herpers, us conscious herpers. But maybe if you find something cool, just tell your buddies where they can find it. Don't put it on a public platform.
I got a good queen snake spot for you.
I need that, man. See, the problem is though, like I really need one in South Carolina. I would love to find one in general as a lifer, but I need a South Carolina lifer, and I gotta go to northern South Carolina to find them. So I gotta make a trip. It's in the works though. That's in the works.
Okay,
for sure. But if I ever find myself in North Carolina, I'm definitely hitting you up. That's happening. It's happening. But moving on from the depressing side of this. So again, you are a avid keeper as well as field herper. So tell us and listeners, if at all, how has field herping changed the way you keep? Again, if at all, you may have started keeping this way before, but has field herping changed the way you do things in your private collection?
I don't know if it's changed things much. I was never someone who liked to keep my snakes super hot. I generally keep them a bit cooler than a lot of other people do. I have just started keeping more snakes in enclosures. I got a whole bunch of scrubs over here. Ooh, crap. A whole bunch of scrubs over there set up in enclosures. I think that's just like a natural progression as you get more and more into more advanced things. You want to see them a little bit more and all that jazz. And I don't know. I don't feel like field herping has changed all that much because, like I said, I've been field herping since before I was keeping.
Yeah.
And so if it influenced me at all, it influenced me at the get-go to evolve to where I'm at. So.
And I do also feel like you obviously anybody who knows you knows you're into scrub pythons. Scrub pythons aren't really a species that you want to keep bare bones in a rack system with just bedding and a hide and a water dish like there. So I feel like it kind of came naturally to keep in a naturalistic way because scrubs kind of need that.
Yeah. And I don't have the most naturalistic scrub enclosures. I'm working towards having more naturalistic, but I think that I do like having branches in there for them. I like them to have some visual stimulation,
but
be able to see what's going on and all that jazz.
You shoot for naturalistic behaviors, and that's something. I was on Colubrid and Colubroid recently, Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. If you have to listen, you should check it out. I was on their podcast recently, and my enclosures they don't look naturalistic, but pretty much all of my enclosures, they make the snakes act in a naturalistic way.
You give the opportunity and the option to bring out naturalistic.
Right.
It can be industrialized or it can be a naturalistic.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a piece of Florida, but everything in there makes them exhibit naturalistic behaviors. It's functionality, and that to me is just as important as it looking pretty is for you. I'm sorry, but I'll die on that hill. Looking pretty is for you, but if you put things in there to make them act in a naturalistic way, that's just as important as it looking pretty, so.
Just a slice of Florida. There's just a bunch of pine needles, a Coors Light bottle, a little needle on the side over there.
That's the thing, man. That's the thing. Like, I literally want to put it eventually one of my enclosures. I want to put a piece of tin in there. Like genuinely, because it's like people act like, oh, naturalistic. I'm like, how how many snakes I found in not naturalistic like hiding places, literal trash pieces of tin, freaking mattresses like that probably have STDs on them. Like,
come on, bro.
Yeah, it was your mattress,
but
But you know, like all these not naturalistic things, it's called AC, artificial cover, you know, and
Yep.
snakes love that crap. And it's literally
Because
like
you learned that
from
this year, okay? You just because you learned that this year doesn't mean you could fucking talk
it
about
was
it like
last year I learned about AC, okay?
that. Right?
But you know, there's a lot of things that can make snakes. I meant to say snakes and act, and it came out snacks. But there's a lot of things that can make snakes act in a naturalistic way, and that is, you know, things like flat hides. You know, for some of your colubrids, acting like a piece of tin, a little piece of cardboard, or a cereal box, or anything like that. It may not look pretty. It's not going to look like a log in the forest, but it can make them exhibit naturalistic behaviors.
I'm sure it's one of everybody's go-to in the hobby. Paper towel and toilet paper rolls. We use them as
Toilet paper rolls, baby. Let's go.
I mean, that is like the most go-to like freaking thing that we use that is industrialized but gives 100% naturalistic behaviors. And that's,
Yeah.
I mean, that, like you said, cereal boxes, tubs cut with holes, made a human hide out of it. Dude, it's all about just making it work and getting the true what it is and just making it with what you have.
So I'll give you a good example. Sorry, Rob, I don't mean to derail the question I asked you,
Oh
but
no, you're
one thing that I did was everybody uses tubs, you know, some type of rack system for babies. So what I did is, you know, I had a bunch of tubs that I ordered for a rack, and they were 6-quart tubs. Obviously, these things came with lids. I didn't need the lids. I was just using the tub. So what I did was I took the lids and I attached PVC pipe to the lids, and I put like PVC legs on them, and I made shelves for other racks out of these little PVC lids. And I posted, and somebody was like, "That's a lot of plastic." I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not wasting it." And the snakes love them. You know, I literally zip tied little PVC legs onto them. No, it looked like crap. Didn't look good, but man, it worked great. No, the snakes loved it. So it's like, you know, if it works, it works, man. You know, it doesn't have to look naturalistic to be naturalistic if you really think about it. And I'll die on that hill. I don't care. My stuff doesn't look pretty, but my snakes appreciate it, and they act in very naturalistic ways.
And you know how you can tell that they're enjoying it? When you see them just like beep bopping around on it.
Yep. Beep bopping. I love it. I love it, man. My biggest thing, I love it, like especially with carpet pythons, but even rat snakes do. When they get up on some type of elevated perch that you have, and they get up on it and they do that little head hang. They're sitting down, their head's just hanging right there, just waiting for something to walk under there. Whenever I see them doing that, if I'm feeding and they go out to do that, I specifically do a little walk with the rat on tongs, like underneath it.
Yeah.
You know, just you know, it's all naturalistic behaviors, man. It may not look like a piece of the jungle, but damn if it don't work. You know.
Hell yeah.
I love it, man. Good stuff, dude. So as we wrap up, we got 3 questions that are kind of our wrap ups here. What advice would you give to somebody that hasn't really field hurt before, but wants to get started in it? What would you tell them where would you tell them to start?
Your local park. Find a local park. Go walk. All different times of the day, different temperatures. Maybe not when it's like the hottest week of the summer and it's like blazing and there's a heat advisory out. Maybe don't go then. But all the other times, go all of the other times, you know.
And it's a staple for that statement that he just made. He's not just making that statement. If you follow Rob, you know he goes out walking at the park all the time with his old lady, and they are ripping it. Not only does he catch snakes, she catches just as much herps as him, which is awesome. So this man's speaking truth. Get out to your parks. You never know what you're going to find. You got to get out there and walk. Just put your boots on the ground.
Yeah. I think it's funny because like when I moved down here, I was like expecting like, okay, there's lots of really big forests. I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna see lots and lots of different kinds of snakes. And we spent a lot of time walking in the woods and we didn't see a whole lot of snakes. And then I was like, okay, let me roll back onto some of the stuff that I would do in New England. And so we would go to some of the more like low key parks that are like, there's people around and it's really heavily used and there's like little bridges and stuff. And we would go there and there would be snakes all over the place. And it's like my partner, Kristen, she's not a reptile person like by nature. She's been drawn into it now because she's with me, but she loves it. And, I would be like, let's go check out this park. And she's like, there's so many people there. There's not going to be any snakes there. And we would go, and 20 feet away from where people are having picnics and stuff, we're like copperhead, 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 black rat snake, another copperhead. And we're just like, people are walking by. They don't even realize that all this stuff is right underneath their nose. And the snakes, like, they know that people don't see them. So they're like under no assumption that they're under a threat. So we get pretty close and get to get pretty good pictures. And, just because you think that there's people in a place does not mean that there's not going to be snakes there. And sometimes the presence of people is what draws the snakes, because people have trash and food, and that draws rodents and bugs and all these other things. 100%. And so, yeah. Wait, what'd you say?
I just said 100%. Like that's, that's so true. And pro tip, if you're in one of those areas, listen for people screaming.
No, don't do that.
No, I know.
They might have killed it.
No, I'm saying like for me, like when I was in Texas, I would go to this one. We called it the duck pond. There were ducks everywhere. I would go there solely to find diamondback water snakes because they were everywhere. I mean, giant. And when I was over there, I would listen for people yelling and freaking out. And I'm like, oh, let's go that way. Like, there's somebody who saw something and they're scared. Like, probably a snake or a giant turtle.
I think it's like, funny
because, man, I'll come save you.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because in a lot of these parks, I'll be like getting down on the ground and photographing stuff, and people will be walking by. They're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm just photographing this snake. And they're like, a snake? A snake is there? I'm like, yeah, you probably walked by the other 4 that I photographed back there because I didn't move them. You probably walked by a whole bunch of them. You just didn't realize that they were there.
Exactly.
And that's one of my favorite things is like, just as far as like educating people, I'm like, you realize you walked past this thing possibly multiple times and you never knew.
Yeah.
You never knew. But now all of a sudden it's there and now you're scared.
Yeah.
Like why are you scared of this thing? It's
you don't even know why you're scared.
No, it's a learned fear. That 100% a learned fear of snakes. And I love taking that opportunity to be like, this thing's not. It's not here to chase you. It's not here to hurt you. It's not here to do anything. It's here to survive, dude. Mm-hmm. And like you're not affecting it. It's not affecting you. Just keep on about your business. If you happen to see one, just walk around and keep on about your day. No reason to freak out, be scared, observe it for what it is and be grateful you got that opportunity, man, because it's hard to see snakes. It really is. We put in a lot of hours. I spent over 24 hours in a car with this man right here looking for freaking snakes in South Florida. And like, we found some, but damn if we didn't find more snakes than we spent hours in the car. Like it's hard, so people, like, my biggest thing is like, don't take for granted what you saw. Like, be grateful, man. Be happy. Like that thing just graced you with his presence. Like, I don't know. It's important.
It's the butterfly effect, man. You think of like how many things had to fall into place for your path and this snake's path to cross at the exact moment when it was in a place where you could see it and you were paying attention and you recognized it and all this different, stuff.
Yeah.
And there's ways to whittle that down a little bit to make it maybe a little bit more likely. But every interaction, how many millions of things had to come into place for you to see this specific animal at this specific time. So I just tell people get out there, and different times of year there's different stuff you're going to see, because like I love snakes, but my partner Kristen, she loves the salamanders. So like in the winter we see less snakes, but that's when all the salamanders are out. So we're out there flipping logs and finding marbled salamanders and spotted salamanders and this and that and slimies and all that jazz. And if you're open to seeing things, there are things to see, is what it boils down to.
Always something to find.
And we preach that so hard on here, man. It's obviously snakes are always the target. We love snakes. That's what we want to find. It's top tier for us. But at the same time, we try to bring, because like we're going to do some species specific episodes. We're going to do an episode on salamandering. We're going to do an episode on turtling, because it's like this isn't snake hunting. This is herping.
Yeah.
And herping encompasses so much more than just snakes.
Yeah.
Be grateful that you flipped that salamander. You saw that turtle. You found that frog. I tell you, one of my favorite finds of this year.
The rough green.
No, not that. That was great. But one of my favorite finds this year was a red salamander that I flipped in Tennessee. Like I was on the side of a mountain with my sister. Like I was about to go out by myself and try to find these things. My sister was like, I need to get away from the kids. Can I go hike with you? Like, yeah, sure. We hiked all the way up this mountain. I found a box turtle like way up in this mountain, just chilling in the middle of the path. I was like, that's freaking insane. And we were on the way back down and I was like, this rock looks good. And I flipped this rock, and there's this beautiful adult red salamander sitting under it, and I lost my mind. Like that was one of my favorite finds of the year. I found a lot of cool shit this year. A lot of cool shit. A lot of lifers. I've done a lot of cool stuff this season. But that red salamander was so cool because like it was just random. Like I just looked at it and said, that rock looks good. It was a big rock too, boy. I flipped this sucker up and there's this amazing little red salamander sitting under it. And it's like, that's the stuff, man. Like that was so cool to me because I haven't found a lot of salamanders. I really haven't. But every time I find them, I'm geeked as all get out to see them and to see that just amazingly beautiful red salamander on the side of a mountain in Tennessee was like, wow, like this isn't snake hunting. This is herping.
Yeah.
You talk about the impeccable timing though. That was what I was going to get at when it's always like if you wouldn't have stopped to take that pee break, or if you wouldn't have, you're like, oh, I guess I'll move that turtle off the road or whatever. And it's always that 30 seconds or 45 seconds that you took. That's the reason that you saw the next thing. And, otherwise you would have never crossed paths with it. I figured that's what Jake was going to say because we were together, but when we were on our herping trip to Francis Marion, we probably never would have saw that my lifer rough green if we wouldn't have stopped for the snake before, and Jake losing it off the side of the road, and us freaking having a full-blown roast session. I mean, this was like full-blown Comedy Central roast session for like 5 minutes, and we all like took a pee break or whatever, then got back in the car. Shit, 25 feet up the road, that's when we find this rough green. It was just like, if we wouldn't have had that whole sector, or if we would have just kept going and been like, oh, it's a copperhead, fuck it, we've already seen 100 of these this weekend, we would have never saw that rough green. So it's like you're saying, so many stars and seconds and things in the universe have to align sometimes for you to have that one experience, or that for you to cross paths. People take it as like such a nonchalant thing sometimes, when you really got to be like, man, the stars have aligned for this. Like it was a destiny moment. So
Yeah.
Jake freaking peeking over his freaking fire truck. Did we show pictures of that thing? Because that thing was a fire truck of a fucking red salamander.
It was, but since Rob was hype about it, I'm gonna go find a picture of it. I've shown it on here before, but I'll pull it up.
I want to see it.
Yeah, this thing was insane.
I went to Asheville, North Carolina last year, and like Western North Carolina is like the mecca of salamanders in the world. And so my partner Kristen and I were like, let's just go look for some salamanders. And we found this hike that was like 1.5 miles. They didn't tell you that it's 1.5 miles, like just distance, but it was like also 1.5 miles in elevation. It was horrible. It was terrible.
Oh yeah.
And we found I think it's a Loxahatchee salamander. It's like the black ones with the red cheeks. And I took this log and I was losing it. I was so hyped for that salamander. They're so unusual. They're so rare. And I was just like over the moon excited with finding that thing. And I've always loved salamanders, but in New England, there's like not a whole lot. Like you can find redback salamanders. They have black redback salamanders, spotted salamanders, and I guess you can find blue spots, but like not really.
Yeah.
Dude, my main goal for salamanders is to get up to Tennessee and grab a green salamander this year, dude.
Bro.
Stop. Dude, Gabe found a green salamander this year.
I know. He's like, I'm just like, stop. That's my biggest target this year for salamanders. That is
my dream salamander.
Let's go, bro. We need to all go together because there's like 6 of us that want to make it happen, and I want to fucking make it happen this year. So
I'm pretty sure that Matt Bowers has found them before, and I've talked to him about going to do it. And he is a property manager, so he goes out to Asheville periodically. We need to make this happen because when I was a kid, I had a little plastic green salamander, and I loved that thing. And then come to find out that Nick Stacy, Indicator Species on Instagram, he's breeding them, and he documented the whole breeding process of them sticking the eggs to the sides of the caves that he's built and wrapping around them and coating them with slime, and then the babies hatching out and these little tiny green salamanders hopping all like because they hop. They're like a gecko. They're not even like a salamander.
That's crazy,
dude. Can we just go make this happen? Because that's like a.
I'm with it. You tell me when and where, and I'll be there. Like
I've been talking about it all year. We could go. It's probably been mentioned on half the damn podcast, dude. Let's make it happen.
All right. Well, here's that red salamander.
Ooh.
Dude, this thing was
zoom it.
I'm zooming. Hold on. This thing was freaking electric, dude.
Damn.
And it wasn't even like small. Like it doesn't look like, but that's that in my hand.
That's a tank.
That's a freaking tank, dude.
Holy
shit. So it was funny. I flipped this thing and I started losing my absolute shit, dude. And my sister like started backing up and was like, what is it? What's going on? And I was like, it's a salamander. And she's like, what? She's like, what do you like? What? I'm like, it's a salamander. Look at this. She's like, oh,
sister, it's a Sally. It's a salamander, sis.
She did not give two shits about it. And like, I went to pick it up. She's like, don't pick it up. It's going to get, I'm like, shut up. Like, it's fine. Like, just, she wanted, like, she kind of wanted to hold it. She's like, is it okay if I hold it? It's not going to poison me. And I was like, just wash your hands when you get home and don't put them in your mouth and you'll be fine. Like, it's okay. Like, look at that thing, dude. How freaking beautiful is that thing?
That is unreal. That's naturally occurring.
Yeah, dude. Freaking just.
Tell me where that fits into nature.
Yeah, right.
Rocking under a log, a fucking fire stick.
Yeah, and you can kind of see the background a little bit in this. Like, it was in this type of habitat, like in rocky, this was on the edge of rocks and grasslands, and there was this giant rock kind of in the middle of it all. And I just like, oh, that looks juicy. I was trying to find a milk snake, to be honest. And I flipped this big old rock, and that dude was sitting under there. That was one of my favorite finds of the year, dude. Like genuinely,
Damn.
I was so happy. And he's
So
huge,
far.
man. He's almost as long as my hand.
Hell yeah, bro.
I will
That's
say,
great.
though, probably my favorite find of the year has to be the rainbow snakes I found with Gabe. That was,
You're not gonna beat that, bro.
yeah, that was like the epitome of
That's like a
herping.
fucking once in a lifetime type thing.
Yeah, and it was cool because we found one. Gabe told me where to go. I was like, dude, like, I really want to find it. And so he told me where to go. I looked around and he was like, you don't see one? And I was like, no, dude, I can't find one. He came right behind me and goes, oh, it's right there. And I was like, damn it. So I was mad at that point. I was like, I walked right past this freaking thing, but I didn't know I was looking for her. So I was like, okay. I was like, now I need to find one. I was like, this is my lifer. I'm gonna count as my lifer if we don't find any more. Group. He found it, but it was a group effort, whatever. I was like, but I really want to spot one. So he took me. So we looked around a little bit more, and he's like, they're usually right here. It's like I'm gonna stay up on the ledge, and you go through it. And I was like, don't fucking move. Like, I got this, because I knew what I was looking for now. And I was looking through all these rocks, and boom, right there, I saw this, like, it was just like a little patch of scales about like yay big. And I just like, boom, right there. And like, I moved some rocks and I grabbed it, pulled it out, and I was like, I'm going to find another one. He goes, you're not going to find another one. There's normally only one around here. I said, bet. And I looked for 2 more minutes. I said, boom, there's another one. And I spotted another one. And oh my God, dude, that was like,
You can't beat that experience.
no, dude, it was that was like, that made it for me. Like, I was happy to gotten my lifer at first, but like, I'm weird in that sense. Like, I really want to find it myself, like I'll still count it, but I really wanted to see it and find it myself. So
But being a 2%er of the berm finders, you're not excited about that, bro?
I was really excited about that. I was really excited about that. I was half asleep when we found that, so that was
experience. But come on, bro.
Yeah, that was
you're part of the league,
bro. the berm is definitely top 5. I'll give you top 5.
Top 5 year.
I'll even give you top 3 of the year. It's probably, I'll even say,
so bitch. God damn.
Yeah, I would say
it's so hard to satisfy.
I would say the rainbows are number 1, berms number 2, and red salamander was number 3 for finds of this year.
That's solid.
Getting my South Carolina lifer Scarlet King was cool too. That happened this year.
Hell yeah.
And I'll specify South Carolina lifer.
What's been your favorite find so far this year, Rob?
I'm trying to think.
You got a good few lifers since you've been in North Carolina, haven't you?
Yeah, but like most of that stuff has been over the last like couple years.
Yeah.
This year I feel like I haven't seen a ton. They weren't lifers, but the spotted salamanders I saw this year were awesome. We went out one day and we saw like a dozen big spotted salamanders, and I think those are just really pretty. I really enjoyed those. But like this year, as far as snakes go, I haven't really seen anything too unusual. It's mostly been black rats. I mean, seeing the water snake, the northern water snake, eating the sunfish was pretty freaking cool. I think that was probably my favorite find of the year so far. But I think that Daytona's in a couple weeks, and I'm planning on doing a little bit of herping around there. And last year I saw some pygmy rattlers, so I'm hoping that I'll see some more rattlesnakes while I'm down there.
Let's dude, link up, because I don't know when you're going down there, but me and Gabe have already talked about, because Gabe's driving down with me,
Mhm.
and we're talking about herping Thursday and or Friday. So Sky, obviously, you'll be involved with that. We should all get together, try to make something happen. That'd be sick.
We should all Chinese finger trap and go herping.
Let's do it.
For sure, man. I'm with it. So getting back on it. Do you have a lifer species you're targeting this year?
I haven't like solidified this trip, but I really, really, really am trying to make sure that I get a Arizona trip done this year for Crotalis, Willardi, and Melosis. Those are like just like of my life. I need to see those.
Top
So
tier,
yeah,
dude.
yeah.
I'm with you.
Those are probably the top. But if for some horrible reason I am not able to make it to Arizona, I am really trying to. I would like to see a coach whip in Florida. I have a fascination with coach whips. I think they're really freaking cool, very underrated.
Big same.
Very
Big same.
And
Florida.
Eastern Diamondback would be cool, but you know who's probably not going to see one of those.
I don't know, man. I got some.
EOR.
All I'm gonna say is there's a lot of barrier islands around here, and I have a buddy with a boat. So that's all I'm gonna say about that.
What happens on the boat stays on the boat, Rob.
So I'm with you. I'm gonna try to make that happen. And there actually are public islands that ferries take over for tourists, and you may or may not be able to dip off from the tourist path and look around. So
Hey,
you want to make it. All I'm saying is, if you want to make it happen, hit me up.
okay. Well, I'm gonna hit you up then.
Let's go.
And you know what? All that I need to see a cane break, like for reals.
Oh, dude, I could do that.
I've seen timbers in New England where they're endangered, but I have not seen a rattlesnake in North Carolina since I moved down here. I live in like the one part of the state. Like if you look at the distribution map, it goes like this around where I live.
And that's funny. We were talking about the whole like, it being luck, finding stuff. This road I've been talking about that I've been hitting hard and heavy. There was one night I went out and I was like, man, I really wonder if cane breaks are out here. I really want to find a cane break. And dude, I shit you not, I came across this piece of road, and randomly, like you cane breaks get pretty big out here. You can find some pretty large cane breaks. I've seen some really big ones, but they've all been on like hiking and on a plantation. This was the first time I road cruised one. Dude, I shit you not. This was blacktop at like 9 something at night. I cruised like a 5-foot freaking cane break in the middle of the road, and I saw it from like way back. This thing was so big, and I was like, oh my god. And I posted a video of it on the Flippin Tin page. Just this massive cane break in the middle of the night, in the middle of the road, and that was it was freaking awesome. And then a couple weeks later, I found a little baby in the same, like around the same spot. So
I love them.
I love cane breaks so much, man. They're some of my favorite rattlesnakes on the planet. God, they're so pretty, so amazing. So hit me up, man. Come down for a weekend, right time of year. I can't promise anything, obviously.
Now I'm about to be herp society and herping, bro. I'm gonna have to move up by you guys.
Come on, man. South Carolina is a lawless wasteland. You don't have to worry about Florida anymore.
I'm lawless anyways, brother.
Let's get out. Let's get after it. So last question we like to ask everybody, and you may or may not have a story like this, but do you have any like crazy, scary, intense stories from being in the field? Anything like that you could share with us?
I don't have any scary stories because I'm a very careful person in general. Um, I, w- I I've got a couple like interesting stories, I guess. When I was
Yeah.
like 17, I used to go to this industrial park and I would go field herping there all the time, and like lots of garter snakes and ribbons and ringnecks and milk snakes and all this different stuff. But one day I was there in the fall as all the plants are like dying and everything, and there's like this giant field and it's kind of lined with rocks around the edges, and so I would just walk the rocks around, but there was like pockets of rocks in the field too, and I was walking from one pocket of rocks to the next one, and I see something like hop in the grass, but the grass is pretty tall, and I look over there and I'm like, that was much bigger than a rabbit. I don't know what the hell that was. And so I keep walking and I see it hop again, and then I see like ears up and turn and look at me, and it was like a bobcat,
I was about
like
to say,
a
Oh,
small
shit.
bobcat. And I was like, I'm out here by myself with my snake hook, like that's it. Like I didn't have anything else with me. And I was like, if this thing comes after me right now, I'm so screwed. And so I just like slowly backed away and just like hightail. I was like, okay, that's it. I'm done herping for the day. Um, that was pretty cool. And then uh, one of my favorite field herping experiences of my life is my dad is from the island of Dominica, which is in the Caribbean, and they have a boa that is endemic there. The only place in the world where it's found, the boa nebulosa, the clouded island boa. And when I went there with him when I was 17, I spent my entire trip looking for this snake. They're called techien, which means like dog face because of the way that their faces are shaped, basically. And I spent the whole trip scouring everywhere we went, flipping over stuff, looking, asking everyone, just like looking for this snake. And I found racers and anoles and amoebias and all sorts of other stuff. But the day before we left, we went down to the ocean, and on our way back, my dad and his brother were like, "Oh, there's like this really great farm up the road, and the guy lets us pick his mangoes, so we're gonna go over here." We pulled off to the side of the road with our driver, and they're over there trying to get mangoes out of the tree, and I'm looking around and looking around and looking around, and all of a sudden I find this apricot tree that's got these root systems that's like this, and in between the roots, the leaves are like a big divot in them. And I was like, "Oh man, that looks like a snake. That looks like a place where a snake would fucking hang out." And so I grab a stick and I like poke it in the hole, and I hear loud.
Damn.
And I'm like, "Oh, dude, this is it. This is it. This is it." And I didn't bring a snake hook with me because I was like worried about getting it through customs and blah 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 blah.
Of course.
And so I go over and I grab a bigger stick and I go back to the hole, and I'm like poking around in there, and I can hear the snake. It's going off. It's just like pissed off. And my dad sees me. My dad's terrified of snakes. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "There's a
Don't
snake
worry
in here.
about it.
There's a snake in here, and I'm getting it out. I'm getting it out. I don't care." And so he goes with a machete and he cuts down a stick that's like got a hook on it on the end of it. And so I stick it up in there and hook it around the boa and start pulling it out. And I'm pulling and pulling and pulling. And like 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot of snake is coming out of this hole. And it was the tail end of it. And so the front end is still in underneath the roots. And so it starts to pull itself back in. And I like dive down on the ground and like grab it. And my dad's like, let it go, don't do it. It's going to come out. It's going to bite you. And so I'm sitting there holding it. And I was like, take the stick and like poke it in the end. And so they like just rustled the leaves on the inside and it like popped out. And this thing had to have been 5 foot long, five and a half foot long. And so I get it out on the ground. I like pin it, grab it by the head, and I'm like, this is it. This is what I was looking for. And it's the day before we were supposed to fly out. And so we got a couple pictures with it. And my dad actually This is the closest he's ever voluntarily been near a snake. But he stood. I have a picture of him standing next to. I was holding the head, and then we wrapped it around my cousins who were with us, and my dad's standing on the end. He stood like this. And then as soon as the flash went off from the camera, he levitated and jumped like 20 feet away and just like, okay, let it go, let it go, let it go. And so I hung out with it for a little bit, and like let its head go, and I was holding it, and um, eventually just like it just calmed right down, and I ended up just letting it go back underneath the tree that it was under. But like the farmer had come up and was talking to the driver and was like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Oh, we just found like this big boa. Like, please don't kill it. They're really rare." And he's like, "Oh no, I know that snake. It eats all the rats that live around the area. So I love how it protects my crops." And so I was like, "Yes, hell yeah." And then the driver was telling me that sometimes people will go through there and if they find big boas like that, they'll kill them and make snake oil out of them. And I was like, whatever you do, don't let them do that. Don't ever let them do that. That snake had to have been 20 years old plus. The thing was old, gnarly. It was so cool.
Scars all over it, probably from
it had a couple scars, yeah, and it was just like such a cool snake. And that's the only island where they're found on. It's an 8-mile long island, and
wow,
they're just so rare. And so that was like the coolest field herping thing I've ever freaking done.
That's one of my favorite stories I've gotten on the show so far, dude.
That's a hard one to top.
Yeah,
I'll have to send you some pictures because I think I have them on Facebook. I wish I had gotten more pictures of me just like holding it, but everyone was so afraid. Like my cousins were younger than me. I think they were like 12, 10, 12-ish at the time. And like my dad, my uncle, and the driver were like, hell no, we're not going anywhere near that shit. But we did get a couple pictures of it. And so I think that was like the coolest field herping thing that I've done probably so far.
That's awesome, man.
That's
hell yeah.
So much.
That's like a once in a lifetime experience for most people.
Dude.
Yeah. Yeah. That boa is so rare. There's so few of them. They're working on protecting them. I think they are protected now a little bit better than they were in the past, because people still kill them down there when they see them. They're just so afraid of them.
It's all snakes, in some of those places, and that's what sucks is like areas like that. It doesn't matter what type of snake it is. It's just a snake and it's gonna fucking die,
Yeah. Like, and it sucks because that island doesn't even have venomous snakes. There are no venomous snakes on Dominica. And they're just like, they don't like them. So
yeah.
And they use them for like old school medicines and stuff like that, and different ritual purposes.
Skins and
they're using it for different purposes and shit, and they're thinking they're doing right by it. So
yeah.
Well, that's a fantastic story. I love that so much, man. That's really, really cool. Very badass. Well, with that, man, I think we're gonna wrap this one up. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You were one of the guests that, like, you're not new to herping, but is it fair to say you're new to serious herping? As of late, you've taken it very, very seriously. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, I was serious about it when I was younger, and then when I started like working, I put all my energy into work, and I really did not give myself time to herp when I was living in New England for the most part. It's always been a passion of mine. It's just I never made time for it. And then when I moved down here, I made a conscious decision that like I'm going to take time to herp. And then also I've got a job that allows me to be outside all the time. So a little bit of herping here, a little bit of herping there, just like sneaking in there. So it's more of a presence in my life now than it has been probably over the last decade. And I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I've noticed it. I've followed you a long time, and I saw kind of the change once you moved to North Carolina and how that happened. And when me and Sky first started this, we kind of came up with like a list of people like right off the rip, like, all right, we want this. You were on that list, like For sure. So we certainly appreciate you coming on and giving us all your knowledge on herp societies and all your herping experiences, man. I think you have a very unique perspective on field herping as far as like interacting with wild herps, from a lot of people. So that was a big thing that we wanted to touch on, and you absolutely killed it, man. So
You just
Hell
have
yeah.
you have so much wisdom from all the
Yeah.
experiences and people you've been around too in the hobby. That's just like, I don't know, if people don't know you, that you're a freaking wealth of knowledge, and the people you're connected with, it's just, you're really connected in the community. Like Jake said, I doubt I've been following you as long as Jake, but I've probably been following you for close to 7 years now on social media, and seeing the change from you going from that full blown workhorse, and hearing you talk about how you live where you work, and you go from taking care of collection all day to taking care of your collection, and it's hard to enjoy it and all this shit, to now seeing you do your thing at home and then go herping with your old lady, and seeing you do all these cool posts. Like you've probably been happy this whole time, but to see you a different perspective of happy, it's cool to see, and to see you more connected with nature and shit. Like Jake was saying, it's definitely apparent, and it's cool. We want more people to see that and realize that, like, you don't have to be locked in your room. You don't have to be locked into, what you think is going to get you somewhere. Just step outside, take a breath, enjoy nature, freaking listen to the birds, go find a salamander, go lick a toad.
Don't lick toads, but
Don't lick the toads. Don't lick the toads.
Don't lick toads. But with that, man, where can people find you if they want to talk to you and anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, follow me on Instagram at Rob is Creeping It Real. I post my like random field herping stuff mostly on my story, so it's only up there for 24 hours or whatever. I post stuff more on my page, most of my captive stuff on my page. Don't add me on Facebook because I screen that stuff pretty strict, and I've got 1,000 friend requests in limbo right now, and I don't really want to look through all of them. So Instagram is the best place. You can also check me out on TikTok too, I guess. I don't really post on there as much. One of the things that you guys wanted to talk about is like how I interact with wild snakes, and I want to make videos on that and upload them on YouTube, so it's a little bit longer format, and so people can glean things from that, and maybe take a look at how current influencers interact with snakes and how the animals respond, as opposed to how other people can do it and still have an interesting interaction and not scare the shit out of the snake. And that's something that I've had rolling in the back of my head now for like over a year. It's just I need to buckle down and get on that. And then the last month, with it being so hot, I haven't been able to find much, and blah blah blah. So
yeah,
Oh yeah,
for sure, man. Well,
Definitely.
and make sure you check out Reptile Talk podcast.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to say. Talk about the podcast. Give it. Yeah. Where can people listen to you?
While you broke out for a second when your service was down, I did mention that you and Jeremy run an awesome podcast. So people knows about that.
Hell yeah, we have been on and off this year. It's been tough with Jeremy's schedule. He's been doing stuff for USARC, and
Jeremy's busy guy.
Plays music, and he does all that sort of stuff. So it's been tough with that. And then my work schedule picks up during the summertime too. So it's been a little bit tougher. But we've got a few things lined up here, so we should have some interesting stuff to talk about coming up soon, and hopefully some interesting people to have on. And yeah, check out those things. Check us out on social media and join your local herp society.
Absolutely, man. Wonderful. Well, Rob, thank you again so much for coming on. This has been fantastic, and we haven't put out a new challenge here lately, and literally mid episode I was like, this is the new challenge. So mid talk with Rob, this is our new challenge, and it's going to be to try and if you can, again, I know it's a hard time of the year for herping, so we're going to let this one ride for a little bit. But try to have an interaction with a wild snake like Rob has discussed. Don't just just run up to something and grab it. You know, take your time, try to have a unique interaction with it, and then tell us about it. You know, I think this is a really good challenge. And Rob, thank you so much for inspiring this one for sure, because I think it's really, really important. So take your time. The next snake you find, try to
Non-venomous. Non-venomous.
non-venomous. Do
Non-venomous.
not free handle. Do not free handle. We do not promote this on that. Do not promote that on this podcast. So make sure it's non-venomous, but try to have some type of positive interaction with a snake and tell us about it. That's gonna be our challenge for the next while. It's gonna might take a little bit, but y'all, the next snake you see, I don't care if it's a 6-inch long earth snake. Try to have some type of
What's wrong with
cool.
6 inches, bro? What's wrong with
Nothing. That's a big snake.
That's a big snake.
Okay.
That's a
Thank
big
you.
snake. That's all
That'll
I'm
be-
saying.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big snake. So take your time and try to have a positive interaction with these things rather than
We're gonna me and Jake, we're holding ourselves to this one. We're gonna
Yeah.
be putting our own.
I'm gonna do this next time, and I'm gonna try and document it. So
Yeah.
Try going from the front. Try get towards their face first, as opposed to going
Yeah.
towards their tail. It's counterintuitive, but it draws less of a defensive response.
absolutely. So everybody try that, and that's gonna be our new challenge for this one. We haven't updated challenge in a while. So it might not even be a snake. Do it with a turtle. Do it with a lizard.
Dude,
Maybe not
lizards
snapping turtle.
are good.
Don't do a
candidates.
snapping. Don't do a snapper turtle. You could end up without a digit, and
Test
that's
the
not
lizard's
gonna be
mind.
fun.
The lizard is a good candidate, bro.
Yeah,
Lizard's a good
100%.
candidate.
Lizard brain will,
Yeah,
it'll interact with you.
yeah, for sure. So do it with something. Let us know, and here soon we're gonna try to do our giveaway. So I hinted at it earlier. We have an extra hat that was made. We have a green hat, and I believe it's a yellow. It's Rob's hat there. It's a yellow rope, but I believe the logo matches the rope, so it's yellow on the green hat. So we're gonna come up with something soon to do a giveaway on that. It wasn't supposed to come, but it did, and I have it. So we're gonna do some type of giveaway to make this fun. So go ahead and start getting out into the field and have some fun with it. And we'll announce some type of giveaway soon. And basically, it's going to be whoever has the best ride in. We're going to vote and
Just
give it
get
to
out
somebody.
there and start getting some freaking
Yeah.
fines. Start
Go ahead and
documenting
get after it. Go ahead and get after it.
some freaking
We
content.
got some guys that are dedicated write-ins every week, and we need everybody to do that. The more write-ins we get, the better. So keep it up, everybody. Thank y'all so much for listening tonight. This has been
Thank you,
fantastic. Thank you, Rob. This has
Hell
been
yeah.
absolutely wonderful. And as always, we are going to close with our final words from the Rattlesnakes of the United States and Canada book. And that is, look and you will see, read and you will learn, think and you will know. Thank you,
Join your
everybody.
local art society.
Join your
Yeah.
local herb society. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day, evening, night, whenever you're listening. Thank you.